Okay, it's time for street talk, but we're going to make you wait for the discussion of the day. We're going to do the smaller storylines first so that we can leave the big one to the end.
Otherwise we'll just be out of steam by the time we get around to them. Yeah, we're going to start off with the Clayton story, which I didn't really know that we were going to be getting an actual appearance from Clayton this week.
I think we said last week, like, I wonder if he's going to appear.
Yeah, I mean, there were promo pictures of him, apparently, which we didn't see. But, that was quite nice. And then we'll talk about what's been going on with Billy and Mason as well before getting to the main event, which is the big Joel story. So, Clayton first. This kind of started off with last week, David ignoring the emails or deleting the emails, didn't he, that Shona was receiving to say that there was a visitation order from the prison. There was a little bit at the beginning this week of the Nick and Toya thing because David walks in on them, doesn't he? Has a
little bit of a brotherly talk.
Yeah, David walks in on Nick having a bit of a sexy talk with Toya on the phone, and David's like, look, you got to admit you're together. And nothing really happened with there, so I don't know whether that's going to go on next week. But back to the prison emails. David's telling Nick about the situation, and Nick kind of sympathises a little bit. Clayton was a massive thorn in the side of this relationship. What with the fact that he killed Kylie and all, David's ex-wife. Yeah, Max's mum was killed by Clayton, and it's no wonder that David wants him completely out of his life.
They met each other after this happened.
Yes.
I'm just reminding everybody, David and Shona met each other after Clayton had killed Kylie.
Yes.
And so, and that's why there was a spare spot in the Platt family bed.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it led to a lot of conflict because she tried to hide it from him, and then eventually it all came out.
Nick says, you're playing a dangerous game hiding him from Shona, but I get why you're doing it. And David has this grand idea of heading off to the prison himself to go and see Clayton, who initially doesn't want to speak to him at all. He's like, I've been trying to contact my mum, it's her I need to speak to. What was your first impressions of seeing Clayton after? I don't know how long it had been.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm going to have a little look. You tell me what you thought about
I was like, Clayton. He's a man. He's got a beard. Look at him.
He looked like proper different, didn't he?
I don't think he did. To me, I thought he just looked like Clayton with a beard. But a lot of people were shocked, weren't they? They were saying, how is Shona old enough to have this man as her child?
I think people were saying that at the time anyway. 2020 was when he last appeared, according to this. May 2020. Right, so, 4 years ago. And I think he's really, really changed. I would almost not recognise him.
A stint changes a man, Michael.
But it was odd how we only got to see him on Monday, considering what happened on Wednesday. And there was a little bit of a mention on Friday. You'd have thought that they might as well have seeing him.
What do you mean? No, I don't want to see hospital beds again.
Well, maybe that's what the big surprise is. Corrie usually can't resist the chance to show somebody sitting in a hospital bed, and they didn't with Clayton. They just had Shona pacing the floor. But we get ahead of ourselves. So David's there with Clayton, and Clayton has seemingly had a bit of a Damascus moment, and he's seen the light, and he's sorry for killing Kylie. He's sorry for everything. He's getting counselling, apparently. Exactly.
Well, it was longer
than 4 years. When did Kylie die?
The reason we saw him 4 years ago is because he was trying to kill Shona.
Yeah, exactly. Kylie's been dead for, I don't know, it's nearly 10 or so, but maybe not that long.
It's funny how long he's been in prison, really. He doesn't look like he's changed that much to me. I know everyone else thinks he has.
Yeah, 8.5 years ago, Kylie died, so he's been...
It's like, David, you know what? I've thought about it all this time, and I've suddenly realised what the issue with me that you have is.
Okay, oh yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I feel bad about it. He says he hates himself, and David says good.
Well, David has got zero time for any of his pity party that he's throwing here, as he's like, you should feel sorry for yourself. You killed my wife, actually. Sod off, and we don't want anything to do with you.
And your mum hates you. I'm passing on the message from Shona that you disgust her.
Yeah, that's it. He's making out that Shona knows about these visitation orders, isn't he? Did you feel sorry for Clayton here? I'm usually quite a forgiving person, so I think he might have pulled at my heartstrings a little bit and gone, David, that's a bit harsh. But I totally get why David doesn't want him anywhere around them.
Well, I've always said, I believe in forgiveness as a society, I think we should believe in forgiveness. But I've also always said I really don't think it's on the victims of the crime to provide it, and they shouldn't be held responsible for forgiving people. They shouldn't be expected or required to, and it is totally fine if they always hold, this in their heart. That's, I think, who am I to say to anybody?
Do you think that David is actually in any way trying to protect Shona or Max here, or is he just thinking of himself?
Yeah, I think he's just thinking of himself. But I don't know. I mean, if he's not though, he's still in the right, because the last time Clayton saw his mum, he tried to kill her, and also Max is already a troubled boy. He's about to find out just exactly how troubled Max is towards the end of the week. This certainly won't help.
I think he is very, very protective of Max. I mean, if Clayton showed, it's first off, he wants to speak to Shona. Could he want to speak to Max at some point? And I know Max is grown up now, so he might be able to take it. I mean, we just had Sam talking with his mum's killer a few years ago.
It's a very popular pastime, isn't it, Coronation Street, talking to your mum's killer.
But you're right, it's David shouldn't be expected to. But equally, the fact that he's going behind Shona's back to do all this, I think is going to come and bite him in the bum before long.
It's not a great decision, is it?
No. So he goes back from prison later and tells Nick what's happened. And Nick's quite surprised about Clayton's supposed repentance. It seemed quite genuine to me, don't you think? I don't think he was... I mean, especially considering what happened on Wednesday.
I don't see how you can distinguish, even if you're the person who is the repentant one, between I feel sorry for myself and I feel sorry for what I've done.
Yeah. Well, David, to be fair to him, does try to bring it up with Kylie, she's dead, with Shona towards the end of the episode when she's come back with a bag of Pollocks, but she's kind of too full of the joys of, oh, this could be, we're moving out, this could be a new start for us, new place, new family even, and David, I guess understandably, decides that now's not the best time to bring up the fact that her wayward son could soon be muscling his way back into their lives.
That's the past, and now we're focusing on the future as a family. We're eating pollock, we're moving on.
I don't think he's going to be due to be released anytime soon, is he? If he's only been away for 8 years... I can't remember what he was sentenced to. I know you get your time off for good behaviour and everything.
I think Coronation Street needs to have like a kind of Arkham Asylum escape, where everybody that's in prison currently just comes out and causes chaos.
That would be amazing.
There's quite a lot of people in there that I think people would like to see out of prison.
Yeah, it's surprising that they don't all bump into each other,
really.
Well, Clayton does get a bit of time out of prison on Wednesday, because it turns out that he tries to kill himself because he's so upset with the fact that his mum apparently thinks
rejected.
He's scum.
That's right.
Yes.
But, Shona doesn't know about this. Shona's thinking about the future, like we said, and she's actually decided that maybe she would like to try again for a baby with her and David.
Yeah, but those plans are called to a swift end when a police officer comes around and says what's happened. We don't hear the news exactly, but we see, straight away, we see Shona frantically pacing around, and then David comes in and she says, Clayton's tried to kill himself. He's been trying to contact us. What's going on? Why is the phone unplugged? And she's in too much of a panic to notice how shifty David's being about all this. And then they go to the hospital, and David is just like saying, you know what, why should I pretend to care here? This is the guy that killed my wife. I know he's your son and everything, but sorry, I'm not going to pretend to cry. I'm not crying any crocodile tears here just because you're upset. So he bogs off home. Yeah, and then that all kind of ties into the Max stuff, because Shona's like, I need to be with my son. Well, David says, I need to be with my son because he's in the police station at the moment.
Do you think that that Max saying he's killed a man is going to give David any sympathy for what Shona's going through? Can I just say, I think this is a masterful setup for like the future of this storyline. If they're, setting Max up to say he did this, and then leading into Clayton and Shona versus David and Max.
Well, yeah, it's no coincidence that Clayton reappears at exactly the same moment that Max himself confesses to murder. I know he didn't do it, but I'm sure Shona's going to be lording it over David with the confession at least. And I do wonder as well whether David's going to... Yeah, because Max is currently pleading self-defence, isn't he? So I think that maybe David could end up being more on his side, and Shona's going to go against it and say, who knows, but I don't know. I don't know. It feels like a good moment to bring Clayton back, and I'm not in any. I don't have any strong desire for him to be a proper main character again, but I don't think he can be because he's good there as a little storyline nugget that can help spark things off. But it was nice to see him again. They didn't need to show him again. They perfectly easily could have had David saying he's been to the prison, then just come back and tell Nick what he's done. So that was quite cool.
On Friday, all that happened was that Shona's, he's actually really ill. He's in a really bad way. And David's like, good, hope he dies. And Shona's like, how could you be so heartless? I'm a parent. No child's ever going to want no parent's ever going to want their child to take their own life, no matter what they've done. And she's just crying, and David's completely unmoved, which, his psychopath side is coming out in this storyline because...
Yeah, there's one thing, him not showing any sympathy, and another...
Not caring about Clayton is one thing. Yeah. Not sympathising with, no matter what, when you're sad, I am sad too. Even if it's something stupid, I'm annoyed because you're sad about something stupid, but I'm also sad for you. I can't buy this Pikmin thing I wanted because they've run out of stock. I'll be like, oh, that sucks, but I wish you weren't so upset about this. Why are we crying?
Yeah, I think that David should probably rein it in just a little bit.
The crowing and but the Coronation Street, if they weren't going to call it Florizel Street, they could have called it a series of really bad decisions made one after the other. It's a bit long, but it describes quite accurately what happens in the show.
I think that he's maybe taking her a little bit for granted. And
he's got his Pollock now. He doesn't need her.
Yeah, well, how long is that going to last?
There's a big bag of that, though. Well, I don't know. It depends on whether it's really bad. If it's really bad, it could last a long time.
I have been, in the lead up to this, a little bit worried about the future of David and Shona, who I do really love as a couple. And I'm sure that this is going to come between them to some extent. And it wouldn't surprise me if Shona moves out at some point. I mean, they're both moving out, aren't they? But
something tells me we're going to see a lot more of this couple in the upcoming months.
I think we might. I think all it's good. It's about darn time, isn't it? Honestly, after so long without... seeing a plaque in the limelight.
You say taken for granted by David, I say taken for granted by Coronation Street, because we do love a bit of Julie Goulden, and I'm very excited at the prospect of seeing a lot more of her in a dramatic turn.
Well, exactly, at last. Right, so that was the Clayton stuff. Paul, Billy, Gemma, do you want to take just remind us what happens here?
Paul, still dead.
He is. And he's not back this week either.
No. Billy knows a secret that we find out he knew a long time since on Friday, but there's been no hint of it whatsoever because he's got other fish to fry.
Yes, other pollocks to fry.
So on Monday, he and Bernie are having a nice breakfast, and he's thanking her for, taking care of him in his time of mental health needs. And Todd comes in to see whether Billy's all right, and Bernie has got he wants to get rid of Todd, and I think there's a bit of... Yeah, Gemma and Bernie, because Gemma comes in too, they both really don't like Todd, because I think they're concerned that he's going to take Paul's place far too quickly.
Yeah, well, after the revelation of the post-funeral kiss the other day, it's not a surprise, really. So
Billy goes to talk to Gemma and asks her to explain why she's so mad. And she tells him, I'm fed up with you hanging around Todd. And also the kiss and stuff, I didn't like that. And so Billy says, I've been having a breakdown. Honestly, it's been a mare of a month. And coming on to Todd, that seemed to be part of my issues. And it was a pathetic attempt to block out all of my grief and to feel something, even if it was just shame. And Gemma says, well, sorry I was mad at you. And they hug. And then Bernie and it just ends with...
It ends with happily ever after,
perhaps the end of this story of Billy's grieving.
I think it feels like it. I mean, there probably wasn't much room for it on Wednesday or Friday's episode, was there?
I just don't need any more of it.
I would hope that that's the end of it. Then,
I really liked them exploring a sister's grief. I wouldn't mind having more of that, I guess, because I found that quite interesting, because that seemed to come out of nowhere. Even though Gemma was quite an important part of Paul's life, and they did talk about the twin stuff, and they did have a lot of it. We focused mainly on Billy, didn't we? Mm. But seeing Gemma grieving and, the loss of a twin, loss of a brother,
particularly
at such a young age.
She's often so full of life as well, and to see the wind so taken out of her sails.
I think it was good. It's probably good for people who are grieving to sort of see that, it's... Because sometimes on Corrie, a lot of the times people just, it's water off a duck's back, or they just go on holiday and we're spared the misery of watching them be sad. But they haven't done that with Gemma, and I think it is healthy to show that it you know, you can't just
it is, but I think
just
enough's
get over
enough
it
now.
in a couple of episodes like they normally do.
Yeah. And then finally, the only other story that wasn't related to Joel and Dee Dee was the Mason story. And we're looking to... We've already seen the beginnings of a bit of a Clayton redemption. But as for Mason, it certainly seems still like we're supposed to be sympathising a lot with him now as well. So last week, Tim formed this little bond with Mason after finding him staying out in their shed. And Sally eventually found out as well.
Summer house.
Summer House. Yeah, they did make that remark, didn't they, this week? Sally is not in the best of moods with Tim at the beginning of Mondays because he let him stay on the sofa overnight and lost her mum's ring in the bargain as well. So she's proper fuming with him. So Tim sees Mason and Matty in the precinct later, strides up to him saying, what's going on with this ring then? Where's my car? And Matty says, well, you know, Mason with me all day yesterday. I didn't steal no car. And he's like not in the slightest bit intimidated by Tim. I'm not too surprised by that. Although Mason is looking a little bit nervous about the whole situation. Mason goes round number 4, is dragged inside by Sally, who demands to know what's happened with this ring. And he's like, it wasn't me, it was my brothers. They took the car, they got the ring inside. But if they find out that I've grassed them up, they're going to kill me.
Oh,
So
no.
Craig's... I know. It's tragic. Craig's around taking notes from Tim and Sally and Mason later. They're saying that it's a false alarm when they called 999 earlier, so it looks like they had summoned the police to give Mason a good rollicking. But now that they're feeling that, well, maybe we don't want to make things worse between Mason and his brothers, let's just pretend it was nothing.
No, Sally should be like, I'm sorry, I do not adhere to the rules of the street, okay? I'm not a street person. I am the ex-mayor of Weatherfield. I don't care about grassing up. I want to maintain my good relationship with the local police.
Well, quite.
But hey.
It
It was obviously Tim's idea.
Mason has another bus slip again at the end of the night. Matty gave it to him apparently when he tried to get the ring back.
Bus slip.
A bust slip. No.
Bust lip.
It's basically, all we get is Mason being a bit sad and getting beaten up, and
Trying to
they
get the
get
ring
their
back.
car back on Wednesday.
Where's
Sally
the ring?
finds out on Wednesday that they've got the car back. It's at the compound. No word from the ring yet. But
No word from the ring.
You have to repeat everything I say.
No word from the ring.
Shut up. Right, Tim sees Mason on the street, checks his okay. Yep, he's okay. Sorry for us screwing everything up. But he's got the ring. And he brings it back to Sally and everything's fine. But Mason's still very perturbed by the fact that his brothers might find out about the fact that he helped retrieve their stolen car and ring.
I don't care. Okay, I don't care.
I care a little bit. I have grown to like Mason. I mean,
I don't know what to think about Mason.
It's just bizarre that we're
it's the
supposed
same-
to be sympathising in any way with a
It
character
really-
who was so vile and clearly a villain.
It really
early on in the
feels
year.
like the same thing that they did. They've done it with Lauren. They did it with Kelly. They're doing it with Mason. They did it with Max. Like, oh, you know, okay, so what? This character, and it's not like the usual sort of like scallywag hijinks.
Well, no. Usually it's just a bit of kind of a
Like Shona
Like, they're a bit of a naughty boy.
Yeah, like
or-
Shona stole David's wallet. We had Gary and the Windasses trying to fraud out a kitchen. You got, there's been loads of like naughty, even back to the day, like Jed Stone and Dennis Tanner. You know, they were just up to mischief. They weren't trying to hurt people, and people got hurt because of their actions, and they learned to. You know, I mean, Gary stoved in someone's face with a rock, but then he learned the power of friendship or something, and everything's fine now. But with these guys, you know, I'm still not forgiven Lauren and Max for being white supremacists. I'm still a bit mad at, Mason. He nearly drove poor Liam to suicide just because they had a little...
threatened him with a zombie knife.
Just because they had a little, face-off at the bus stop, and Liam says, I'm over it now. And Mason's like, yeah, sorry about all that. I'm sorry. I said before about forgiving people, and I think it's not on the victims. I really feel in this case, like, the victims have been forced to almost apologise for being offended. Like, poor Alia and Yasmin are living on the street where these two white supremacists have now murdered a man between them, and they're like, you know, oh, I can't believe Yasmin's still hung up on the whole bomb thing and the knife thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Do we really care about... I mean, the thing is about it is that Paddy Beaver, who plays Max, and Kate Fitton, who plays Lauren, are both really nice. They seem really nice. They're really charismatic. They're very attractive. They've got a warmth to them. And so, as characters, I cannot help but sort of want to like them. Because of the actors, they're just, you know, they've got great screen presence. But when you really look at what they've been up to, I think they're a pair of bastards.
Yeah, I think Mason is the worst of the worst, to be honest.
I'm sorry, Michael. No.
What?
Mason is
Max
terrible, but Max and Lauren, I know Lauren really, you know, Lauren was just kind of like doing the washing up for everybody to enable them to set bombs off and try to kill people. But Max made Max made a video.
But we saw him being groomed and being transformed into this, and I've got a lot of sympathy for him for that. But we didn't see that for Mason. But I suppose what they are trying to do now is retrospectively say it's his brothers, and maybe he's got a good heart after all. But it's his brothers that forced him down this knife route.
This is the problem I had with Max and Lauren, where it's like, oh, it wasn't them, it was the evil guy on top. Okay, so eventually we're going to we're going to work our way to the top, right? The top of the top, the most hatred-filled person in the whole world, and they're the only reason everyone else is evil.
I know.
And if you kill them, their evil influence over everyone else will be suspended. That kid that stabbed somebody because Max made a video, he didn't get off with it, did he? Because he was like, oh, Max made a video, it made me sad. Nobody feels sorry for him, but we're supposed to feel sorry for Max and Lauren because they got brainwashed. How about take a bit of personal responsibility? I completely understand. I do understand coercion and grooming and brainwashing are a thing, but at a certain point, you can't just use that as a literal get out of jail free card to get away with doing stuff and not really atoning for it. Because although Max had his little scene where he was sorry and he said sorry to Alia, I just don't think Lauren ever has. For all we know, Lauren's still like, I'm just going to go check out Stormfront.
Just biding my time. I don't know. But do you want
Lauren's probably only sad that she killed Joel because he's white.
Gosh. Right, shall we move on to the main event then, Gemma? The briefs down story, the big reveal that we've been waiting for weeks about what exactly happened that night that Joel was killed.
Week, we knew that Friday's episode was going to reveal Joel's murder. There was no way of getting around this. You know, if you're online,
you couldn't move for spoilers that Friday was going to be the big day, especially as they'd announced the ITVX special Killer on the Cobbles live with Sharon Marshall, Soap Queen. We knew that something big was happening. They'd also, I can't remember whether this had happened. I think it had between. Also before our last episode, but the suspect lineup photo was complete, wasn't it? Strangely, Max and Lauren were just kind of plonked on it. I think it was after Friday's episode, despite there being no evidence to point towards.
That should have been the biggest. We said all along that the last person to be added was the person who did it.
Yeah.
And even so, on Monday, loads of people were like, oh yeah, obviously it was Lauren. I knew it would be Lauren all along. I don't think many people guessed Lauren because I think it was kind of like too obvious in a way.
They were leading us down the path to suspect Kit, and obviously all the time along I've been saying it's Kit, obviously it's Kit, this is rubbish. Come on, why am I having to sit through all this? It's clearly Kit that did it, and then there hadn't been a whole lot of evidence to show that it was someone else. And to be honest, we hadn't seen a lot of Max or Lauren in the past 5-6 weeks, had we? There'd just been a few scenes of them at the hospital. I mean, in the week that Joel was found, because I was having a look through our notes again earlier, I don't think we even saw them that week. And then maybe by the time they showed up again, any kind of after effects of, oh, we've just killed somebody, I know that kind of thing does linger a little bit in your conscience, but could be understood that it is understandable if they're not as shook up, 2-3 weeks later as they were straight after the event.
Whenever she's been seen, she's been looking guilty and concerned and shifty. And it's been put down to, I'm worried about Frankie. And I think I even said in the podcast, like, if she has killed Joel, she's obviously going to think, I'm worried that I'm going to go down and I'm not going to be able to look after Frankie.
Well, the other thing with Lauren
It's
is
just
that
not really a twist,
miserable is her default expression.
Yeah.
So if you're miserable about this, miserable about that, who's to tell what the difference is?
Lauren is white supremacist Sailor Moon.
You just can't
With
forgive her for
hairstyle.
that, can you?
Why should I?
So we went into Monday's episode knowing that they were on the suspect list, not really being sure about why that would be, but that came into Monday's episode. And even after Monday, though, I'm not going to say that it was completely obvious that they were the ones that were going to be there involved. Although after Wednesday's episode, when we found out that Max was there, I think that the fact that Lauren was the one to deal the killing blow was pretty much there and fairly obvious. But I'm not particularly let down by it. I've seen lots of people saying, "Oh, it's such a such a shame. It's so obvious. It was her along. Where's the big surprise?" See,
It
what I
wasn't
really
surprising
didn't.
though, was it? It was unexpected but not surprising, which I think is a bad combination.
What I didn't want, the last thing I wanted, was for it to be someone
Yeah.
who wasn't on the suspect
Yeah, like
list.
Gus.
Because we were, you were still thinking it could be Gus.
I said Kit, Gus, or he's not dead, and I honestly, I'm not over that. And I think, I'm sorry, Corrie, but you either have messed up really, really badly, and it's possible that you have, or there's a real big twist and a shock to come.
I think there's still more to come. I think when was we set to
I don't know
discussing
if
Friday's
that's-
episode, we get there.
I don't know if that's a big hope.
Yeah, no, I think,
I hope it isn't.
I think there is still
We'll
more
get to
twists
it, yeah,
to
you're
come.
right.
So I was... Who did I want it to? I don't know whether there was anybody that I thought, I really want it to be this person, or this person's going to make it that
hang
much
on.
more exciting.
One of the things we said was the major suspects in this, and I think we did include Lauren in this, and we did talk about Kit, and we talked about Dee Dee, and I can't remember who else. Oh, Mason maybe, yeah. And we were like, these people, although Dee Dee is a gem, and I want her to stay in the show forever, and I really think she's got staying power. The other ones seem so disposable and new that it almost feels as though the issue is you don't want it to be a character that was specifically brought in to be the killer of this in this storyline, because that it's just a disposable character. There's no consequences. There's no stakes. It feels like I want Corrie to invest in a story to the extent that they're willing to get rid of something.
Yeah, sacrifice someone who is really big to the show,
something really
which
important. They haven't done it, and I think that's been Corrie's biggest problem for years now. And it probably did start with Ian McLeod, but I'm not sure that they're not willing to sacrifice a real big character, and so therefore everything feels low stakes. And why should I care? Like, why should I care who killed Joel, who's a character who's only been in it for a year, when it was a character, Lauren, who's only been in it for a year? You know what?
Yeah, Lauren. I think
Although-
Lauren first appeared a couple of years ago, but she
And I
had a
really
big
do
gap, didn't
think
she? So
that-
she's probably only had 18 months in
And
total on screen.
I've said
And that includes a
many
disappearance
times,
earlier this year.
I think both those characters are good. I really like the actors. I think they're both very talented. They brought their A game to this storyline. But if you're comparing the impact on the viewers to it was Lauren who killed Joel versus, I don't know, it was Roy who killed Carla, those are two completely different universes of impact and consequence that you just cannot replicate, no matter how dramatic the story is and how well performed it is and what twists there were. It's just not going to be as impactful.
No.
And that's all, you can't say any more than that.
And the suspect list that they put in place for themselves would have made it almost impossible for it to have been someone that would have had a huge consequence, because the only two names really there, which were long-standing, were Carla and Max.
Oh,
and
yeah, Swain's the other one that I forgot to add into that list, and I know Swain's got a massive fan base, and I'm not denying the impact of that fan base, but I think you can definitely add it to the list of people that haven't been in it for that long.
The other thing about the suspect list that we had at the beginning of the week is that quite a lot of the names on there, we thought, well, obviously it's
Why
not
would it be
them.
them?
Because Mason seemed to be put on the list for no particular reason at the beginning, and I think he was pretty quickly
Betsy was
discounted.
never on there either, which is weird, because the only reason he's on that list is because Betsy came crying to him.
Yeah, I don't think we ever really thought it was either the Bailey boys, although Ronnie still was acting
Ronnie's
a little
got
bit...
something-
He's got something that we'll come to
a secret.
later. So going into it this week, I was thinking, well, it's still looking like probably Kit. But apart from that, then maybe it is going to be Lauren, because I don't think, with what we know about what the characters have done, that it could be any of the others.
Yeah, I mean, we knew it wasn't Dee Dee because there are a few massive things that are really bothering me about the kind of conclusion of this storyline. I mean, we haven't said it yet, but everyone is speaking about this. The fact that Joel's body was found in a body bag, but they threw him off without a body bag. If this is a continuity error, I'm furious.
It's not. I am not in the slightest bit worried about this. And you were really getting fretful about this last night,
let me
weren't
finish
you?
my thought. And the other thing is that Dee Dee thinking she killed him when he was clearly still alive after she left him is very, very irritating to me, because she's not that stupid.
But I don't think that she thinks that she killed it. I know she was saying I killed Joel, but I think that was just a case
for dramatic effect. And then she sort of mumbled on about, but I put him in a position that
I think it's more
he could be in danger. Oh, come on. No.
I think it's more that.
Well, whatever.
I think that they didn't that when she went to Ed last Friday and said, I killed Joel, that was there just for the dramatic confession.
Last night,
in the fronts of the soap magazines. But I don't think she actually thought that she probably killed him.
Last night, I was like, there's no way. Like, I'm 80% sure. I'm 80% sure there's a twist to come here, because Lauren and Max did not wrap Joel's body up. He was found wrapped up. They showed us a video of this. We watched it happen. And I think there's a twist. And I think I still think Joel's alive. And I think that Kit helped him. He put Nathan's folder in his bag. He's like, said to him, I'll keep quiet about this. I'll help you escape. You keep quiet about Nathan. And, you know, maybe Gus was in on it too, because Gus has ID'd the body along with Kit, and, you know, and that's what's happening. And I'm 80% sure that's the final twist. And then the episode carried on for another 15 minutes. I'm like, I don't know. And then I've gone to bed and I slept really badly. And I woke up today and I'm like, I think they effed this up.
I really, really don't. It's far too obvious.
I hope
there was no way that they would have put him wrapped up in that body bag if they'd known what was going to happen.
I don't know.
Not a chance.
Okay, my problem with this.
Listen,
my problem. The reason I think this is because of the handover between two producers. There's a lot of turmoil.
No, I don't think so. If this is a co-production between Verity and Kate, they're gonna have some handover notes, aren't they?
They have messed things up, but not to this extent before.
This has all been filmed a bit out of order anyway. I think a lot of the flashback scenes were filmed first, so I don't know for sure, but I think maybe even the stuff that was up on the bridge and on the volume wall this week was filmed before a lot of the other stuff.
The problem is...
So I don't think they'd have done that and then said, let's just have him wrapped up. Is it just a case of they didn't want to show what state his body was in, so they'll say, well, maybe he just floated past some plastic and get wrapped up in it?
No way, because it's around his head.
Exactly. He has been wrapped up in something there.
I wondered whether
There's more to come. There is more to come.
I wonder whether it was something to do with censorship and, like, you can't show a body. But then I thought, no way. They could still have shown... They could have shown a body. They could have a back of a head.
Or a lovely green hand like they did when Leo was discovered in that pile of mud.
That. They could have done that in a way that wouldn't have been an issue.
100% purposefully put in that plastic wrapping. There is more to go. I can't figure out what it's going to be.
But, okay, right. So if that's truly the case, the only way that would make sense if Kit is still in on it, because Kit is the person who is investigating it, and he knows full well this body was found wrapped up in plastic. He didn't say to them, when did you wrap him up in plastic? If the only way it would make sense is if he's the one who wrapped him in plastic and he knows and he's keeping it quiet. But the problem with that again is that other people know he was wrapped in plastic, and there is oversight at some level. There's going to be a court case. The prosecutor is going to say, what the heck happened here? Max's defence lawyer is going to say, hang on, when did they wrap him in plastic? That wasn't part of my client's confession. It's going to come up. If this is like a big misdirection trick and it really was Kit, and it's just too glaring a thing that everyone's ignoring. I mean, Lisa Swain was up his arse the whole time. She's forgotten he was wrapped in plastic. You must be kidding me.
But I wonder whether Max knows about the plastic. There's no particular reason for him to know that, which is why his story still makes sense. Well, I think that what we've seen from Max is absolutely what happened.
If this is that Kit knows and he's keeping it secret, he's playing a very dangerous game because he's going to get found out. Unless he's just waiting.
There should be other people in the station. You would have thought that, somewhere pinned up on the wall in that new police station set should be a picture of Joel's body wrapped up in plastic. So why isn't his mate? Maybe this is the benefit of having a partner who never says anything. Yeah. Maybe the person he's sitting next to absolutely knows. He's like, I can't say it. There's a really glaring mistake here. No, so I think,
my faith
I've been saying
knocked.
It's Kit all along, and we're rushing right to the end here, but I suppose we couldn't help it. But it feels like there's still a possibility that Joel goes into the water. He's not completely dead. This, in a way, gets Lauren and Max off being involved in actually murdering someone. So maybe he climbs out of the water. Kit's there for whatever reason, bonks him on the head again, and he finishes him off. Yeah,
there's a few. That's my opinion about what I definitely was sure that this was involved in some way, and Kit did it, and he's just taking their confession.
Kit has been mega dodgy, and it can't just be because he just has a dodgy demeanour to him.
Okay, but the reason my faith has been shaken in this is that because of this killer on the cobbles, right? This because international viewers, I don't know if you got a chance to watch this, but it was basically Sharon Marshall, like you said, soap queen. I think she's written for EastEnders. She always appears on TV, on ITV and stuff to talk about all the soaps. She presented this 45-minute long program where she interviewed Joel. She talked to Lauren, and Dee Dee and everyone, the actors obviously, and showed clips and talked about it. And they said things like Lauren was always the one that was going to kill Joel. Joel's definitely left, and she even read out a tweet from somebody saying Joel was alive and went, "You're an idiot," basically.
There was the interview with Verity McLeod as well, wasn't there? She was the one that said this storyline's been 18 months in the making.
If this is really an 18-month long story, and you kind of fumbled one of the major points, then that's kind of really, really, really disappointing. But the other thing is, if it is all a big misdirection and Kit really did kill him and he whatever, then you just lied to us for 45 minutes as an additional gaslighting exercise to try to make sure that we really, really didn't guess the twist. I'm sorry, but that does not sit well with me at all, because if it is the case, then out of the show universe, you've lied to my face in the guise of celebrating a storyline, and I find that really dishonest and actually a bit crap.
I don't particularly mind that, but maybe I'm used to that because that they used to do that an awful lot with Doctor Who, and like Stephen Moffat would lie barefaced in his interviews just to keep secrets and to make something happen that is a twist. And I think
I just don't like it. And
this wrapping thing is so blatantly obvious. But then again, you could say that about the CS spray. The CS spray came up as evidence on Monday, and I'd completely forgotten about that. But we saw on the episode before Joel died, Lauren taking the CS spray. If we'd have remembered that, we'd have been banging on about that non-stop for the past 5 weeks, saying, well, clearly Lauren's done something really dodgy because she stopped the CS spray. Nobody's mentioned it. And if we could have remembered that, we could have forgotten about the plastic.
I'm glad there's at least one thing that took me a bit by surprise, because I thought I remembered it was Betsy, but it was a different blonde scallywag that stole them.
They're very easy to get mixed up.
Talking about what you just said about Doctor Who misdirecting its fans, Russell T Davies said he liked this episode on Instagram, yes. So I'm glad that he enjoyed it. Also, Ian Kershaw, shout out to him, he wrote Wednesday's episode, which I definitely really, really did enjoy.
Wednesdays was my favourite of the week. Fridays I still, on the whole, I'm going to say that I enjoyed, but like I said on the short, it felt that in the final 15 minutes, it just stumbled a little bit and was spinning its wheels, and I was just waiting for there to be some twist or hint or some kind of clue that this isn't as over as we thought it had been, but there wasn't anything.
I think my problem with this at the end of the day is that either they messed up or they're treating us like idiots and kind of like lying to us and then laughing at us for believing the lie, because it's one thing to misdirect in the fictional world and have you know, ways of telling a story that focusing on the wrong thing, or like, I think that's all fair game, that's fun, it's all part of the joy of an investigation of a murder mystery. But when you're gonna barefaced lie to me and tell me that this happened and this is why it happened and this is how it happened, and take me out of the show and tell me, and then turn around later and kind of like go, oh no, that was all a big load of rubbish, I'm gonna, yeah, like I said, find that hard to swallow.
It could all be part of the plan, because I mean, maybe Kate Brooks is the sort of producer that likes to have big twists and surprises, and maybe she'd like there to be something where in a month, 2 months' time, she says, aha, you'd forgotten about the plastic, hadn't you? No. And then in this time it just turns out we say, well, no, actually, we hadn't.
But can you see how that then Killer on the Cobbles piece of like documentary then becomes part of the fiction of the show?
Yeah, I totally
in a way that I don't. I think it's because I feel personally affronted, like.
At the end of the day, they didn't lie about what happened on the night. I just don't think they've told us the full story.
No, they did lie, because they said Lauren's the killer and she was the killer all along, and we thought when we hired her that she's the killer.
No, yeah, it's for semantics, isn't it? It's
some people are not going to mind
did
this.
She kill him? Did she severely injure him? I mean, she whacked him over the head with a brick twice. So even if he manages somehow to get washed up on the shore and finished off by Joel
or Kit,
by Kit, sorry, Lauren does bear some of the responsibility.
I just think tease me, misdirect me, like, you know, trick me, whatever. Don't lie to me, because that's not fun and that's not part of the game that we're playing. We're not playing the game of you tell me something in a non-fiction setting and then turn out that I shouldn't have believed you, because also you undermine yourself. When am I, you know, whenever they do, like, I don't know, who's the next big person who's going to leave Coronation Street? When is the guy who plays Roy, what's his name?
David Nielsen.
When's David Nielsen leaving? Are they going to, like, misdirect us and, like, have a whole fictional 45 minutes about what he got up to on the street, just with a bunch of lies thrown in? I'm not going to trust anything they ever say again.
No, I don't lie.
I'm just stuck between two things here. One, they messed up, and two, they lied. I don't like either of those.
Well, look,
and you know, everyone's saying, oh, it's a completely different show. I go along with a lot of what Corrie does. I'm easygoing in that way. I like it how it used to be. I like some of the things they do that are different and dark, but I don't like this.
If there is more to come, which I think there is,
there better be.
I don't think that it's going to be too long before we start to see it. Clearly, the storyline now is going to go down the route of, you know, is Max's trial, Lauren's guilt, and so on. Kit's still going to be acting really, really suspicious and dodgy. It wouldn't surprise me if this time next week we're been told more explicitly, no, there is more to come. We're left with some really clear unanswered questions after Friday's episode.
Right.
So yeah, let's come back in a week, 2 weeks, and see if we're still a little bit worried that they've gaffed up here. I do not think that they have. I 100% do not think that they've made a continuity error here. No way. It's too obvious.
And I'm sorry, this is definitely a personal thing that I don't like. I don't like lies. I really hate lies. I hate people that lie to me. And it's real. It's my own personal hang up, because it shouldn't affect me this much. And it's really not personal at all. It's just a stupid television show. And if they did do like a Doctor Who-esque misdirection, what you would call it, but I would call it lying, then it should be all in the fun of the game. But it's just not something they've never done before.
We'll see.
And I do take it personally.
Right. Shall we run down
Michael?
Shall we run down what happened? Well, let's do a day each. You do Monday, I'll do Wednesday, you do Friday.
Oh, okay.
It's your turn, and I did the last story.
Well, so Dee Dee is still convinced that she needs to confess for this crime that she knows she didn't commit, but she's just too good of a Christian to not. And we know why on Friday, because we have a revelation. And I'm pretty sure we did mention it on the podcast last week, but about Dee Dee being pregnant, because we talked about it. I'm sure we did. Listeners, let me know. I definitely talked to you about it, though, didn't I?
Maybe.
You denying all knowledge of that as well.
I can't remember.
It was just a guess, but it was one of these things where in Coronation Street you're like, what's the worst thing that could happen? And that's usually what it is. So she's obviously very upset. She thinks she's killed Joel. She wants to go to the police station, and he heads her off and says, you're making a mistake. And also, anyway, Joel deserves to die. But she goes to the police station anyway. And she tells Kit...
I did think that was a bit harsh from Ed. I know that he's a villain and everything.
Who's... Oh.
Joel. But for Ed, who I don't, he to me isn't the sort of person that would say somebody deserves to die. I would say that Ed would more say he needs to face justice in some way.
I mean, to be honest,
Joel get locked behind bars.
Joel is definitely being super vilified in death because he was a bit of a scumbag, but he wasn't on the same level of scumbaggery as some of the people that are still alive and involved even in this very storyline. Like, what did he do? He's a bit of an arse. He did try to kill an unborn child. That was really, really bad. But
yeah. Well, he obviously was grooming Lauren and the other girl,
he was a rapist.
Ellie.
He's done a lot of really evil stuff, but we don't really kill people for that in this country.
No,
in many countries.
I think lots of people might say, or so would say that Joel deserved to die, but I just don't think that Ed is.
Well, you've written down Joel deserves to be dead, which is definitely different. That's different from saying he deserves to die.
Well, I don't know exactly.
I think there's a nuance there.
I don't know.
So Dee Dee goes anyway, and she tells Kit that she's the one that made the anonymous call after she hit Joel with the crowbar. And then we get to see Max, Lauren and Bobby. They're with Frankie. He's coming out of hospital tomorrow, and Max tells her to go to talk to Dee Dee later on. So Dee Dee's being interviewed formally for this crime, and she's decided to represent herself, and she tells Kit that she approached Joel to make sure he was stopped so the police could catch him, because this was the day, just to remind you, when he had failed to appear in court to answer for his crimes, and he was on the run basically, and she wanted to make sure he faced justice. She says he had a suitcase with him. He was obviously going on the run. The only reason she brought a crowbar with her was to protect herself. Sadly, you're not allowed to do that in this country, so that's already an admission of guilt. When I was watching this, I was thinking, Dee Dee, you're crackers. Give back that Rising Star award that you got for being the best solicitor, because you are really bad at representing yourself. Your answer should be no comment all the way through. But of course, that's not very interesting for storytelling, is it?
No.
So Kit says, why didn't you phone and then wait with him to make sure that he was taken into custody? And she says, I never meant to hit him as hard as I did, but it was honestly self-defense. And also, when I left him, he was still alive. And he must have been, because he left me that voice note afterwards. And then she's trying to defend herself, and she just kind of dissolves into tears.
Well, look, what we saw on Friday was she clocked him around the face with a crowbar. He went down like a ton of bricks, and then grabs her ankle, doesn't he? So it's no surprise, really, that she doesn't want to hang around with him. Yeah, I get she's feeling guilty for hurting him, because that wasn't premeditated, I don't think. But it doesn't mean you have to hang around with someone and risk your own safety.
Yeah, there's a lot of people I don't like hanging around with, and people like Joel are pretty high on the list.
I just think, really, that Dee Dee should probably just phoned into the police station rather than Kit, whose number she happened to have.
This is an extra layer of suspicion on Kit, despite everything, and tying a bow on the top of this and saying it's done. This is a layer of suspicion on Kit here, because why did he not report that he went there? Why did he delete the number off his phone?
Well, he's still worried that... I suppose
he's worried that he knows that Joel knows about Nathan.
Yeah, and it wasn't obvious the next day that Joel was definitely dead, and so he could have probably reported the next day at a push, but if he didn't...
Him and Swain were wandering around that night doing police things without doing any paperwork, which is, probably a really great crime in the world of policing. You've got to do your paperwork. We can't have renegade cops running around.
Yeah. So if he thought, well, I don't want to be implicated in this at all, maybe I'll stay quiet, but I don't know.
No, you can't. I mean, because he's a bent cop, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But
I still think
there's more. It feels like there's more to it, but again, like I said, is this just a big cope? I don't know. And now, the worst thing about all of this is that I've lost bragging rights if it does turn out. Because I'm so doubtful now. Like I said yesterday, 80% I was sure, and then had a few conversations with people. Do I still have
bragging rights?
And now, today, I'm 30% sure.
Really?
Because I'm really worried they've screwed it up.
I am 100% sure that they've not screwed this up. So I will brag proudly when it all turns out.
Whatever, you look insufferable, aren't you?
Well, usually the thing is, I moan and whinge about Coronation Street. I've had enough experience of that, and then it be turned round in my face and go, see, Mikey, you were wrong. You were moaning about this,
but
and
what,
then actually it turned out to be okay.
Does it not bother you that they put on this Corrie Cobble killer
No.
conundrum?
Not really. Apart from the fact that, like I said, I would have liked at the end of the episode to have had just a little bit of clue dangled in front of us to say, don't worry, we know.
I just think if they wanted to use that show as a vehicle to try to dispel all doubt about what the actual conclusion of the storyline was and to make people think there's no more to it than this. Number one, why would you do that? Because it seems a bit boring. And number two, there are so many ways they could have worded things in a more ambiguous way that at the end of the day they could have turned around and said, ah ha ha ha. No, you interpreted it in a different way to the way we meant it. We're still being clever and fun. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, it's clever. Yeah. It's clever to trick people. It's just not clever to lie and go, you stupid, because you believe me.
No, I get it.
I'm not going to stop moaning about it.
I just do imagine, though, if you are right, and there were people at Coronation Street watching either last night's episode or the scene where he washed up in the river going, blow, we made a mistake there. That was one of the old versions of the scene that we'd filmed where he was wrapped up in plastic, but we should have... Yeah.
Look, there's still time to fix it if this has been a big mistake. There's still time to go cobble together the storyline whereby Kit did actually...
Well, they've had to do enough cobbling together with Martin Platt not coming back. There should be old hands at it by this point.
It's really far-fetched, though. This is the thing. And, you know, a lot of people, whether or not you like the drama of a storyline, it is still far-fetched to have I don't know. I'll give up. Honestly, today I just feel so demoralised by the whole thing. When I woke up this morning, I went to the shop today and I was just depressed the whole time. And I was walking around Sainsbury's thinking, I've forgotten something. I've messed something up. I've left something behind. I've done something wrong. And it's because of this storyline. It shouldn't be how it ends. It shouldn't be how it ends.
Right, let's keep going.
Right, so she's trying to defend her and crying and everything. And then we get Kit and Craig doing police investigations. And Craig tells Kit they found the murder weapon. It's behind the hedge where Joel's car was found. It's actually not a crowbar after all. It's a rock. And there was also something else with it. Ooh. The cafe. Ed admits to Roy and Carla that Dee Dee is handing herself in for hitting Joel on the head the night that he died. He tells them the story and he says he's very worried about her. And Roy and Carla are like, oh dear, this just doesn't sound very positive, does it? And obviously Ed just wants everything to be all right. See, a lot of people reckon on Friday when Ronnie talked to somebody in the alleyway and says, oh, Joel needs to die, they think it's Ed. But if Ed knew this, he would have a reason to actually go to the police and tell them it wasn't Dee Dee. Why wouldn't he?
Exactly.
Bobby goes and hears from Carla about what's happened, so he tells Max, and then Max rushes to Ed to find out if this is true.
Tell you what, everything's going all right for Bobby this week, isn't it? But Max
Everyone's
banged up.
turning
The coast
up roses for Bobby.
Yeah, the coast is clear for him to move in on Lauren and be Frankie's new dad.
He's like, Lauren, isn't it cold in here?
He is. He's going to get those old tricks out again, isn't he?
Yeah. Right, Carla goes
He's the mastermind behind this all along, you know, Rob Donovan's son. He just plays the long game.
Wrongin'. Carla goes to the pub, finds Lisa Swain. She is getting sozzled on gin. Do you not think Lisa... I know we said before about, do we call her Swain, do we call her Lisa? I think Lisa sounds too formal. Swain's starting to sound... No, Lisa sounds too casual. Swain is starting to sound too formal. But Lisa Swain sounds like you've just put together two names that don't go together.
Yeah.
So she's getting sozzled on the gin, and Carla tells her that Dee Dee's confessed, and this sobers her up. But then Kit comes in and arrests Lisa for murdering Joel.
So I'd seen as a one sentence preview for Friday's episode at this point that Kit is going to be interviewing the chief suspect, and I presumed that it would be Lisa at this point. We were quite convinced that he knew exactly what had happened. I mean, this had been our theory, hadn't it? That Kit was responsible for Joel's death, and he was going to pin it on Lisa, and it just didn't really end up going there particularly, did it? I suppose it was partly thanks to Dee Dee's confession, but...
Well, no, because it wasn't. It was post Dee Dee's confession.
Oh, no, it wasn't it? Yeah, you're right.
Kit goes and arrests Lisa.
But all the way, now I'm kind of thinking, did he really think it was Lisa? Because he seemed to get quite a bit of joy from the fact that he was bringing her in. I know that he wants her job and...
Well, you know, this is the thing. If he is still... If the theory is that there's more to it than this and Kit's still involved, he knows that Lisa didn't do it. And so this is why he's so he doesn't really care who he arrests, because as long as the evidence points to them and doesn't point to him, he's happy to arrest anybody. Yeah. And if it's his long sworn enemy, Lisa Swain, who one time took a hobnob, the last one out of the tin, before he had a chance, which I'm sure is the reason for all of this animosity, then he'll nail her to the wall.
Swain's the one that's responsible for Kit being transferred to Weatherfield, Nick, isn't she? You should be grateful.
Why did she transfer him?
I don't know. He used to work somewhere else. I can't remember what the whole story was.
He got in trouble though, didn't he? I think he got moved because he was a bit of a liability.
Was he?
I really don't remember. I really don't remember. There's so much water under the bridge, and much of it had corpses in it so far. So, Kit tells Dee Dee, I believe your self-defense story, you can go free. And she says, was Joel gone when you went to Noble Street after you got tipped off? When you went there, was Joel there or not? And he says, you got off lightly, don't push your luck. I'm not answering the question. Because that's for a flashback.
That's for another flashback. We got to see Sabrina next, didn't we?
Right, so this is supposedly, and now I don't know what to believe of anybody, her final appearance in the show for now.
Yeah, Sabrina went through a little stage over a couple of days this week of being a chief suspect, didn't she?
Very briefly.
From the online folk.
Yeah, bless her. I'll miss Sabrina and Gav. I hope Gav comes back.
I don't think he will.
No, I know.
He was mentioned a few months ago when he was supposedly arrested. I think the last time we saw Gav was when he
vaping in the alleyway.
No, I thought he was when he spied on Tommy and Tracy up his window cleaning ladder. Tim's always trying to make people window cleaners, isn't he? First you got Gav, you got Mason. But yeah, Luana Santos, who plays Sabrina, put a post on her Instagram on Monday night saying, oh, that's my final episode. But everybody watched her appearance on Monday saying, why's she been brought in for this? It did honestly seem like a completely waste of time appearance, completely unnecessary. She's been away from the story for so long, from the show for so long. Why bring her in just to say, oh, hope you're okay?
And it didn't
I'm going, bye.
It wasn't even a conclusive appearance where it's like, guys, I'm dipping. You guys are bad news. I'm going to Wolverhampton.
She just kind of
get away from you.
She's there and she says, oh, Lauren, I hope you're all right. Anyway, I'm going now. Bye. See you soon.
Yeah, see you soon.
It was bizarre.
Yeah.
It felt, I mean, was it just a case that Luana Santos had been promised 45 episodes, which I've just got Corriepedia open on my knee at the moment, was how many she got, and they said, well, we better get her in for one final one. We haven't got anything for her to say, so let's give her this superfluous line about nothing, and then off you go. It's very peculiar. I remember when she posted on her Instagram a couple of months ago saying, oh, goodbye, Corrie, I'll miss you, and I was like, oh no, that's it for Sabrina. But both of those Adetiba kids, her and Gav, have just been the most bizarre side characters that Corrie's had for years.
They weren't bizarre themselves, they were bizarrely used.
Yeah.
Because honestly, they had so much potential. I don't want to be mean, but there is a lot of characters who are recent additions that I would have rather seen.
Absolutely. I thought that they both
Sabrina.
had a real kind of something about them.
I love both of them.
Yeah.
And honestly, look, representation is important. We have got the Baileys, but there aren't any other black characters. Getting rid of two black characters that are really fun and popular.
And they were popular right from the start.
Yeah, they were.
So I'd be very interested to know what went on behind the scenes in terms of their contract and everything.
I don't know what they want to do. I know that Sabrina's actress has gone to acting school.
Yeah.
And so perhaps she's decided, maybe they said to her, go off, get whatever qualifications you want to do, go and see the world, come back whenever you want. We'd love to have you back, but she's saying, no, I've got to go. We don't know what the situation is.
She may well come back.
It might have been their decision. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame. But
anyway, she appeared to say goodbye.
Yeah, and so people then jumped on that and thought, well, they wouldn't have brought her in for no good reason. Maybe she killed Joel. I mean, she didn't have a huge motive particularly, did she? Wasn't she? She was sitting next to Joel trying to chat him up at one point. That's when Betsy came along and kind of jumped into her shoes and took over the blackmail herself. So, did Sabrina get a bit miffed the fact that she was turned down by Joel in favour of Betsy, so she killed him? I think that it would feel a little bit desperate, but yeah, I think I'm glad in the end of the day it wasn't her. Because that would have felt a bit too much of a stretch.
Would have been weird. I mean, like we said before, this is one of the red herrings that we had the whole time about who killed Joel, because we said it has to be someone with a car and it has to be someone with the strength to not only kill a fully grown man in his prime, but also wrap him up in plastic and throw him in the river.
Well, we did say right from the beginning, I wonder if it might be two people.
It can't have been Sabrina by herself, is my point.
No, but we did say that it could have been two people right from the start, and in a way it was.
Yeah, but not for the reasons we thought it was, because they forgot he got wrapped up in plastic.
No, but Max was questioned on Friday and asked, look, did you really heave this fairly bulky guy over the edge?
I don't have a problem with them saying Max did it by himself, because men are just, I mean, let's not pretend men are not stronger to magnitude than women. There's no way it was a teenage girl by herself. That's all I'm saying. Everyone knows it. Right, so we get the
bye Sabrina.
Bye Sabrina. Lauren wants to go and see Dee Dee, but Max is like, no, we need to. She's working. We can't bother her. Then we get this Swain-interview, yes. Okay, and they tell her they found a rock with CS spray next to it. This rock's got DNA from Joel's head. Luckily, Max and Lauren remembered to wear gloves. It wasn't shown in the video, but just remember that's what happened.
I read
and the
some
CS
people
spray is next to it, which belongs to you.
Yeah, I saw some people theorising that rock is a porous surface, doesn't take fingerprints very well. Okay. I don't know.
I mean, I don't think you can take fingerprints off a rock, but you can certainly take DNA off a rock.
When
if they found Joel's DNA on it to know it's the murder weapon, then in the fictional world of Coronation Street, despite physics in this world, there is evidence on that rock. There's not evidence of anybody else. Otherwise, they would have known from that without having to question anybody.
When Max threw away the rock into the field on Friday's episode in the flashback, I did kind of think, you stupid idiot, because even Lauren says to him, or what if this gets found? And he says, oh, we're far enough away from it, and why would anyone think of looking for a rock? I would not have taken the risk. I would have taken that rock, driven it halfway at the other side of the country, and then maybe dumped it somewhere, perhaps crushing it into many pieces beforehand. But I guess he's maybe regretting that at this point. We all make silly decisions in the heat of the moment.
This is the thing that people sometimes will say is a plot hole or something, but people being stupid is not a plot hole.
Especially when you're in a bit of a panic mode, which he was at the
young.
time.
It's his first kill. So
not going to make that mistake next victim, I tell you.
Right. So she says, this CS spray you said was there. I lost that. I don't remember when. It must have been when I was hit by that car. And there's no way I personally could have attacked and overpowered Joel. I just left the hospital and I've got broken ribs. And Joel says, well, it's not really hard to hit someone over a rock from behind. Ask me how I know.
I didn't really...
No, sorry, Kit does. You've written Joel, but Kit says...
I didn't really buy the fact that she hadn't realised her CS spray was missing, because this was 5-6 weeks. I was assumed they just get one canister of it each.
That don't make sense here. And that's one.
I mean, it worked in that we'd completely forgotten that Lauren had taken the CS spray, but it didn't make sense in that she hadn't noticed herself.
But the weird thing was, it wasn't used for anything in the end. It was just used to pin it on Lisa that she's the one that did it. Right, so Kit will not relent on this, and he says, right, this is what I think happened. And he tells her that, she whacked him in the head. And Swain says, well, charge me then if you're so convinced, but the CPS is not gonna go with this. And Kit says, well, we're gonna look at your phone, we're gonna track your movements. And she says, oh, well, my phone got broken when I got run over by a car. And then Kit says, well, we're just going to have to keep you in custody then. So how do you like that? Ed, Bobby and Max, meanwhile, are having a drink in the pub. And behind them, Kit's in a booth and Carlos drives up to her like, where's Lisa? Why have you arrested her? When are you going to let her out? And he says, just butt out, toots. So Carla and Ed go to see Roy and ask him what they can do to help Lisa. And Ed's like, well, how come they're not looking for this suitcase that Joel had on the night that Dee Dee attacked Joel? And Carla's like, oh, that makes me have a flashback. Because when I came out of the factory and looked over, the person I was looking at was Max and Lauren, and they were putting a suitcase in the back of David's car. And it was probably the suitcase you're talking about, even though you haven't really described it to me.
Yes, so it's been a couple of weeks since we had the first flashback of Carla seeing something outside. How did you find that resolution?
Oh, okay. The thing about these flashbacks is that they're all really tame and kind of inconsequential. There was no smoking gun in any of them, really, was there, apart from the Friday's episode where we got to see what actually happened. It does, I don't know. And we were also expecting to kind of see a reconstructed flashback episode where everything was put in its place. We're still not really sure about the chronological events and when everything happened.
What do you mean?
We can put it together, but we're not, well...
Friday's episode was relatively chronological.
I know, all right then. When did Carla see, you know what I mean? Like... Yeah, whatever then. You didn't like it. You don't agree with me. Fine.
No, I just think it was after this had all happened. Carla and Max and Lauren were
when was Swain attacked? You don't know when that happened.
Well, she said.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like the chronological order, you can put it in almost. There's lots of different orders you can put it in. Some things definitely happened after something else happened, but it's not like It's not like on Friday I had this vision of like a timeline and everything suddenly slotted into place perfectly.
I think
my point.
What might have been nice on the ITVX special is if they'd shown us a little timeline putting it all together. But Fridays pretty much did that job.
We had Max and Lauren in the garden going, "Oh, what was that noise?" And it turned out the noise was the gate was not on the latch.
It wasn't even Mason. I was convinced that would have been Mason going into Sally and Tim's shed.
When did that happen? You know, do you see what I mean? There are lots of. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, but at the same time, they've made me think that these things mattered, and then they didn't.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I've got a fairly good idea of what happened, well enough. But yeah, that was one thing that they could have maybe done to enhance the live episode. The other thing, which I'm really surprised they haven't done yet, is like here's all the clues that you missed little video clip.
I think they're too busy going, who put the guy in the bag? Who put the guy in the bag? You've got us in so much trouble now. They bloody notice. These people on the internet, you know, I'm sick of them. Can we get rid of them? Can we just like make everyone go off Twitter?
Maybe
can we start a Twitter exodus and get everyone on Blue Sky and nobody goes on there and they're not going to talk about finding Giles' body? I'm sick and tired of this crowdfunding fan nonsense that we get.
Right, on to Wednesday's episode. This is where it stepped up yet another gear in terms of how many flashbacks we were getting. So it starts off the episode with a whole gamut of them. You got Ed and Ronnie remembering when Ronnie was saying he's going to go after Joel, and then he leaves the crowbar on the floor. He doesn't actually go and do it. Kit we see drinking his whiskey after going to see Joel. He remembers the confrontation in Noble Street that he had with him. We had Swain. She's in the police interview room, I think, or the cell. I can't remember where she was. She's remembering back to chasing after the suspect being hit by the car. And then being discharged from hospital with her sore ribs. You got Dee Dee, remember him walking out of the Ginnel and crying. And then finally, we get back in the present day, Carla seeing Lauren getting into a taxi outside number 8. There was also a little bit, and do you remember this at the beginning of Wednesday's episode where you thought that David was checking out the side of his car? Because we were still wondering about the red scratches on the bloke's car in Noble Street. And there was a scene where David's next to his car. And I think he was just opening his car door. But we were wondering, has he noticed a little scratch there? But
David is the sort of man who has a constantly suspicious look on his face. Yeah,
but it turned out that it was Kit's car that caused the scratches after all anyway. So, oh well, there were just lots of red cars going around that night, weren't there? Carla then has another little flashbacky scene to the night where she met Max and Lauren outside number 8 and saying, "Oh, you go on your holidays then," because she's seen this luggage. And then we go back to the present day with David telling Carla that Frankie's being discharged today. So all setting up for an episode of drama. Roy in the cafe is seeing that Carla is looking somewhat troubled. Lisa and Betsy come in. Carla says to Lisa, what's been going on? She says the police clearly didn't have enough to charge me. This is Lisa. She's been let out. She's acting quite chipper about it, really, but Betsy's still worried. Betsy, we've really not seen a whole lot of this week, have we? Considering, you know, this is a big conclusion to the story that she was one of the people that set in motion. Yeah, she's been fairly absent.
And I just want to say something about Betsy. And you know, I criticised her. I haven't had any pushback, but I guess the people that were pushed back aren't talking to me about me criticising her reaction and sort of shrieking at Swain in the factory, saying that she's the one who killed Joel. But I just want to point out, as a copper's daughter, shouting that your mum killed somebody, that could be used as evidence in court against your mum, that you like, even if you deny afterwards, after the fact, and say no, she definitely didn't kill Joel, there are people in the factory, lucky for her Beth has left, who would testify, I heard Betsy accusing her mum of killing Joel.
Yeah.
That would be used as evidence. Yes, it's circumstantial, it's hearsay, whatever, but it still adds to the weight of evidence. Yeah, but she's the copper's daughter. When she was introduced as a canny, manipulative, Machiavellian character who used her knowledge of, like, the dark side of life because her mum's a cop, and she used it to blackmail Joel in the first place. Don't tell me that same character, all these weeks later, is suddenly naive to the world and how things work.
No, I think she was it was a natural reaction if you suspect. You probably, the things that you know you should and shouldn't say probably go out the window if you think there's a possibility your mum's bumped someone off.
It is a soap, and if people didn't shriek and make a fuss about things, then we wouldn't have any fun, would we?
Well, Lisa's telling Carla, I think somebody's trying to set me up, because why else would my CS spray have been at the scene of the crime? Meanwhile, Max and Lauren are having lovely times at the hospital. They're talking about what a wonderful futures Frankie's going to have, but Lauren's also a little bit worried that he might be taken away from them. Max says, look, this isn't going to happen as long as we keep our noses clean. So this was kind of the beginnings of that. Yeah, there's definitely something dodgy going on with Max and Lauren here. They said they'll look out for each other, but she's looking pretty sad about it. Obviously, what we know now is that she's hiding this murder that she's done, and it's no wonder she's feeling a little bit concerned about whether or not she's going to be able to keep Frankie or not. So Dee Dee is talking to Roy later and tells him about this altercation she had with Joel on the night of the murder, how she had to defend herself against him. Swain overhears this and tells Dee Dee, well, the police are suspecting me at the moment. Yeah. She says, what?
Wait, she's like, well, glad you got away with it, because they're now pinning it on me.
Yeah, they found my CS spray. People are, there's somebody's setting me up. I just can't figure out when somebody might have pinched it.
Isn't that part of the problem?
Yeah.
Shouldn't you keep better track on it that you don't remember when it was stolen?
Why did it take you 5 or 6 weeks to realise this, Lisa?
Maybe you shouldn't have been focused on the festival tickets.
Yeah. Carla turns up at the factory to chat with Max and Lauren later, and because she's kind of realising there was definitely something odd about them that night. I need to go and find out what it was. So she asked them about this suitcase that she saw them with. And they're
like, ooh,
flashback. Yeah, they're having a flashback to the evening again. And Lauren is, you can tell that she's clearly quite disturbed by something or other, and also very defensive, because Carla's saying, are you going on your holidays? What's going on? And Betsy's saying, not Betsy, Lauren's just saying, I'm scared because Joel's on the loose. Carla says, well, you can't leave Frankie. You can't disappear off with when he's around. Just go inside. I'm going to phone the police if you're worried about Joel. And Lauren is like, no, don't phone the police. This is just making her more nervous. I'll do anything you tell me. Just don't, anything you say, just don't phone the police. Right, so she's obviously feeling very scared here about the fact that police are going to turn up and then find out that she killed Joel.
Yeah, this is post Joel's death, isn't it? So Carla's walking out the factory and she is seeing them return from the scene of the crime. For some reason, they've taken Joel's luggage. Why did they take it?
I don't really know. They could have just put it in the boot of the car, couldn't they?
Oh, no, because they knew that he was faking a suicide. So they aided him in his faking of the suicide by removing his luggage.
Oh, yeah, no, that makes sense.
Because if he had left the luggage there, then it would have made it look like
he'd been planning to move on somewhere else.
He had died, which is what actually happened. So this, I just want to quickly say again about if it is in fact true that Corrie didn't mess up and this body wrapped in plastic is part of the plot. It's interesting that person did not know that there was a suicide plot in effect, because they obviously killed Joel and wrapped him up to make it look like a murder that they could then pin on someone else. But if they'd known that Joel was planning to fake his murder, and they'd also known that Lauren and Max threw him off the edge, they would have thought this is just going to look like he threw himself off to kill himself.
Yeah. because
perhaps the iron bar, I don't know. It's interesting though that they picked up on some of the head wounds, but they didn't pick up. Oh no, because they knew that he'd been injured and he was dead before he went in the water. So they would have worked out that he didn't kill himself by chucking himself in the water.
If he had managed to get out of the water and then get bonked again and then wrapped up in plastic, why would you wrap him up in plastic? Because you would have known if you were pulling him out of the water that something's gone on here.
Yeah, I know. This is one of the things that doesn't really make sense. The other thing also is that they found no water in his lungs, and I find it very hard to believe that unconscious fell into the water.
They did. You're right. He was claimed to be dead before he went in the water.
So somebody found his body and wrapped it up? No, that doesn't make any sense. If he fell in the water unconscious, he would have swallowed some water by accident, wouldn't he? He would have swallowed water by accident. This is what I mean. No matter how you put this together, there's an element that is a bit of a flub.
I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I still am.
I think they overcomplicated this.
You're right. That has made it a little bit more.
I don't know. Well, at the end of the day, it's going to be unsatisfying in some manner.
I don't know.
Everyone's going to be mad.
Hope.
Everyone's already mad. I think this is the life of making Coronation Street now. I think no matter what you do, everyone's going to be mad.
Back to the present day. Carla's telling Lauren and Joel that telling Lauren that Joel had this suitcase the night that he died. And she says, look, what happened to Roy is now happening to Lisa. He went to prison because of people lying about them, and now she's potentially going down as well. Do you need to do something about this if you know something? Did you kill him?
No.
And they're like, no, definitely not.
No. Why would you say that?
Yeah, exactly. Have
you seen a flashback?
Carla turns round to leave and Max stops her. He says, look, please, we can't risk splitting up us and Frankie. Frankie needs us. Please don't dob us in. Don't say anything to anyone. And she says, well, you need to go to the police then and explain yourselves, because if you don't, then I will.
Unfortunately for Max and Lauren, they haven't seen the Swala hashtags. Otherwise, they would understand Carla is in no way motivated to help them cover up their crimes in order to let Lisa go to prison for them.
Exactly. So Swain, Carla and Dee Dee are in the flat.
Oh, I like this scene. This was like a international house of crime solving.
Yeah, so Carla's telling them about seeing Max and Lauren with the suitcase. All of her suspicions there as well. She says that she's just spoken to them. She knows they're lying. And she has already reported it as well, so it didn't take her long to get down to the station.
She's not stupid.
Swain realises at this point, at last, that Lauren could have been the one that took her spray as well. Because she's like, oh yeah, I was in the hospital that day. And then it disappeared. Oh, I wonder whether it was her.
I wonder if it's related.
Yeah. We then have a scene where where Shona is having to rush off to the hospital. Max and Lauren are left alone in number 8, and it looks like they're planning to go on the run. And Lauren says, I think I know where we should go.
Where have they stored this luggage?
I don't know, not under the stairs with a bag of money.
Area.
No. So Kit, Carla, Dee Dee, Swain, they're all on the hunt for Max and Lauren later. Dee Dee has to admit that Lauren has a tracker on Joel's phone. So well,
that adds to the opportunity, doesn't it, for committing this crime? Yeah,
exactly. So they arrive at the hospital where they assume that these two are going to be, but no, there's just a foster carer there saying, well, I don't know where these two are, but we had an appointment, and Kit's pretty narked that they're not letting investigate this himself as well. Again, at this point I was thinking, does he want, because he knows that he's done something very terrible that's still not been revealed
he doesn't want them to...
He doesn't want them wading in,
finding things that are inconvenient to him.
Exactly.
And I did like this reluctant teaming up, because Kit kind of had to let Swain bob along, didn't he?
Yeah.
At a certain point.
Yeah. So Lauren and Max end up going to Joel's flat. This is the amazing hiding place that no one's ever going to think of looking for them. Yeah, they just want a temporary hideout where they decide what on earth they can do next.
Where you can't close the front door.
So Carla and Lisa find Betsy in the bistro. She just wants her mum to sit and talk to her. And Carla sees David there and says, look, have you seen Max? I saw them the night that Joel was killed. I'm a bit worried about them. And David is sceptical, but he tries to ring Max. And Max, meanwhile, is not answering any of David's calls because he's a little bit stressed out about what they're going to do now. Lauren says, look, I should have just ditched the police, the suitcase. Sorry, I don't know why we took it with us. Why
did we kill him?
Yeah, all of this time, this is the funny thing as well, the fact that they had killed Joel, well, Lauren did. Nobody was there listening to them. There would have been a lot of opportunities for them to have maybe brought up this topic and all these private conversations they're having with each other. And they're dancing around the issue, aren't they?
Well, there was a lot of times where we were talking about, oh, maybe this character and this character did it together. Maybe this character and this character. And we kept saying, no, because they never talked about it and they kept the pretense up while they were alone, which wouldn't have made any sense.
Yeah, and this is a perfect example of that. Lauren's just talking about wanting a normal life. She wants to get away. And Max says, look, why don't we take Frankie and go on the run? He starts coming up with all these plans, and she says, no, look, this isn't going to work. This is crazy. He says, no, this is the only way that we can go together. We can go abroad somewhere, maybe. I know someone that I went to school with who can get us on a ship. I know someone who lives in Newcastle. How handy that you have got a little friend that can do that for you.
I don't think that would work.
Little house away, nobody knows who we are. She seems to be convinced by this idyllic picture that he's painting for them. But it's all a bit of a ruse, because he sends her off to the shops to get some stuff. He does this lovely little I love you, and they have a nice little kiss. But obviously in Max's head, he knows that he's just about to ditch her and then turn himself in.
For the greater good.
Exactly. When she comes back, flat's empty, and he's left a note which she reads and then crumbles. It's clearly saying... Well, we hear it on Wednesday, and it didn't say anything particularly...
it wasn't like...
unusual.
No.
It's basically a case of, you need to go along with what I say. I'm going to go and hand myself in.
Yeah.
Although I suppose on Wednesday, we didn't know for complete sure that Max...
Well, it could have been him saying,
acting alone.
I'm dumping you in it.
So Lauren turns up at Dee Dee's and says, look, I was just nervous about meeting this foster woman earlier. That's why I wasn't there. Any idea where Max is? And she says, well, we just heard that he's handed himself in.
Yeah, because he goes to the station and Kit's there.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, I've been looking for you.
I missed that.
And Max says, so I heard. I just want it to be over. It was me. I did it. I killed Joel Deering.
Yes. So she says, Lauren's saying to the others, look, I just went along with what he told me to say because I love him. Max is being interviewed saying he went after Joel because of everything that he'd done to Lauren, to Betsy. He's a nasty piece of work. He says that he was the one that took the CS spray, and this is when we get our first flashback of the confrontation between the two of them. So this was on top of the viaduct. He's there holding the CS spray to Joel. There's railway tracks beneath them. What does CS
stand for again?
Conversation Street.
Oh.
And Joel grabs him and they wrestle. It's very exciting. How did you find that set? And how much did the volume wall bother you?
Oh, it didn't bother me at all.
Did it not?
No. When they said, we did it on the volume wall, I thought, good. Well done. You did a good job. I didn't realise it was a volume wall.
It did bother me a little bit.
Did you know it was a volume wall when you saw it?
Yeah. I don't think it was...
did it.
It wasn't as obvious as Kelly on the roof.
Well, you said to me, when we went to the viaduct, we should have gone up to the top to see the railway.
Well, no,
the railway probably isn't even up there.
Well, I did say that we should have gone up when we went to visit a couple of weeks ago, just so we could have seen. But no, you could just tell the background looked a bit too fake. It wasn't terrible, but I mean, a lot of the camera work was a little bit artsy on Wednesday and Friday's episode, wasn't it?
You couldn't even see the hat shop. There's a hat shop there in real life.
A hat shop?
There's a hat shop.
Is there?
Yeah. It wasn't in the volume wall, was it?
So yeah, they're having a bit of a wrestle. Back to the interview. Max says that Joel was strangling me, holding me on the edge of the bridge, grabbed a rock, hit him with it, killed him, and then I pushed him in the river and ran. So this is Max's story.
And an officer comes in and goes, Kit, this doesn't make any sense.
He says something, doesn't he?
He just says something, but we don't know what it is.
Yeah, and then he gets dragged down the stairs past David, who's there waiting, and he's saying, they're charging me for murder, but I only did it for self-defence. It wasn't murder. Flashback, end of the episode. Joel's there on the tracks. Long shot as his body is dropped into the river. And then Max stands up on the tracks. It's him. Everything that he said so far appears to be true because there's nobody else here at the moment. And the episode ends with him being put into a cell and him saying, what have you done? Or something along those lines.
If he wasn't going to go to prison for a fake murder, he was going to go to prison for something else. This kid's been a wrong one for years now. Ever since he got recast, he's been up to no good. I feel bad for him because I like Paddy Beaver, but Max... Oh my goodness!
I thought this
naughty boy.
I was really pleased for him that he got the opportunity to do this. You know, the climax of this big story that's been going on for weeks. And I think that both, Paddy and Kate did a really good job. With what they were given. And
I just know because Max is the only person here who is like a long-standing character that he's probably going to come out of it unscathed, and everyone else is going to be found out.
Yeah,
do you not think so?
Yeah.
We said before about legacy characters, and we said like Max when we were talking about who possibly did it, and I said Max is a legacy character, and they don't really like to do stuff like that with them. He's in the same, to me, he's in the same category, and I know a lot of people probably wouldn't put him in here, but he's the same category to me as Adam and Daniel, where he's like the heir to a massive family who've been going back for a long time on Corrie.
Yeah, even though he's not actually a Platt himself,
no, he's
still a
not.
Turner, isn't he?
Yeah, I know that.
But it remains to be seen what Lily grows up like.
I mean, who knows what crimes Lily is waiting to unleash on the world? Perhaps, I don't know.
So the thing with this episode, I suppose, we'd been told beforehand that the big reveal was going to be on Friday.
Yes.
So the fact that this truth in inverted commas came out on Wednesday's episode was enough to make us go, well,
it's not him.
It clearly
then.
wasn't him then. We've seen this kind of thing happen too much. Plus, you said that we're going to find out on Friday. So we weren't left with very many options as to what could have happened. And it did just make sense that Lauren was there with him. It wasn't the only possible option. I mean, Kit could have turned up there. But I think that kind of ties into why some people are saying it was very predictable, the action that went on Friday. And certainly I don't think there was very much on Friday that made me gasp in shock. It was more like, yeah, we were right. But is that always a bad thing? Not really.
The trouble with Corrie, and I don't know how you overcome this, is that you're trying to write a story for two groups of people, one of whom are terminally online, and I include myself in this, who are reading the spoilers and perhaps falling for maybe your misdirection and being led into situations to expect certain things, whether or not you or your marketing team intend them to or not. Like, they obviously wanted us. I don't know whether the writers and the storyliners wanted us, because, I'm just going to say, marketing and storyline, two different things. When they're writing a story, they're not going to be like, oh yeah, we'll make sure that the marketing tells everybody the Friday's episode is going to be this. What happens is they'll watch it and go, oh, how to hype people watching this episode will tell them this, right? So sometimes those two things are at odds with each other in exactly the same way that a trailer will give away some of the massive points of a movie, and it will be completely outside of what the intention of the original writer or script writer or actors. They don't want everything to be given away in the trailer, but nobody's going to see it unless they think something exciting is going to happen. So that group of people has got a certain expectation. And then you've got people who are just your usual Corrie watchers who probably, they watch almost every episode. They're not going to kill themselves if they don't see one episode. They kind of follow some of the spoilers, maybe if it comes up on the telly, whatever it is, on the coming up next week thing, or maybe the announcer will say something that might tip them off. But these two groups of people are really hard to write for simultaneously. Yeah. Because there will have been people that went into Friday's episode that had no idea that the deal was we're going to see who the real killer was. And then everyone else going into it's like, it can't be Max then, because they told us that we were going to find out on Friday, but we've found out on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So it's a real big, hard job to try to keep both of those groups of people entertained and on their toes about something when they're working with two different sets of information.
Yeah. I put out a little poll on Twitter about 15 minutes before the episode aired on Friday, just saying, do you think that the murderer was somebody in this photo? And because it didn't run for very long, it didn't have a whole load of votes, like 50 votes or so. But it was in a fairly even split, I think, in the end, as people thinking, yes, it was one of these, and no, it was someone else.
I mean, from the perspective of...
If Gus had turned up at the last minute and finished him off, that would have been the most awful conclusion to this possible, because he's not been in the show, just showing up out of nowhere, clonking his own son on the head with no particular reason. No, I wouldn't have bought that at all. I'm glad that it was somebody.
From a very plain kind of misdirection, like the very basic storytelling, they did pull off a great misdirection and a fun twist, which was that we were told on Wednesday it was Max, and then by Friday we found out it was Lauren.
Yeah, I mean, what if they hadn't hyped up Fridays and we just we finished Wednesdays thinking, well, there we go, that was the big reveal. Gosh, I wonder what's going to happen next.
Yet again, and I'm sorry to everyone listening, I do think that if you don't engage in fandom and theories and speculation and forum chat and podcasts, you're going to have probably enjoyed it more. Because it's like 1,000 monkeys writing on 1,000 typewriters. We're going to come up with the exact scenario just by chatting nonsense for hours and hours, or talking and typing and writing and tweeting and blue skying. What do you do on blue sky?
I don't know.
Fogging. I don't know. But whatever you do, you're going to have guessed it. And so if you just don't think about it too hard, you're going to enjoy it more. But that's not what we're about here, though, is it? No. It's about overthinking everything. So with that in mind, we're going to talk about Friday. Mm-hmm. So Max is being interviewed, and we're seeing some flashbacks of things that we haven't that we've seen before. So it's putting together some things that we've kind of, what's the word? Reminding us.
Yeah, I think the first one was we hadn't seen before. That was Max and Lauren walking down Rosamond Street talking about basically what a git Joel is, and we can't let him get away with being a git.
Well, Kit's there also looking dodgy, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, and so we can't let him get away with it. And then we get to see Kit saying, right, who helped you? Because you can't have done this by yourself. You must have had help. Then we get to see a flashback of Joel.
Yeah, sorry, on my notes here, it's not completely obvious what's flashback.
I think maybe, do you remember?
Vaguely, I
think
talk
maybe
about
you
this
should
if you
read
want.
this bit.
So we get to see Joel hiding between his cars as the Baileys,
flashback.
Ed and Ronnie argue about what they're doing. This is when they were going to break into his flat to try and rough him up and drag him down to the station. And
guys, have your criminal plan in effect before you leave. Like, go through the stages and then
it feels like Ed got riled up and was going to go along with it, but he just gets cold feet when he actually reaches Noble Street. And it works anyway, because he's able to convince Ronnie to get back in the car and drive off. Joel gets up and hides.
He's unable, or he is able?
What?
Ed and Ronnie drive away.
Yeah. Okay. And then a panda car shows up, so Joel has to hide again. I think that must just be in response to the flat break-in, because they did go into the flat, didn't they? They go there, there's nothing there.
That's never mentioned.
No, it doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Well, a lot of this does matter.
At the station, Swain, this again, flashback time, she's asking Craig if he knows where Joel is.
Why is it his responsibility to know?
I don't know. And she says, look, if you need, I want to be here when he's hauled in, so if I'm not, you let me know, okay, straight away. Bailey's are getting back to the Ginnell behind Coronation Street, and Dee Dee's in the I think she's in the kitchen at
I don't understand this, because she looks like she's on the ground floor.
Yeah.
Is she in Ed's house?
Yeah.
Oh.
She's in Ed's house, and she's listening to them arguing. She's also got
the tracker.
The tracker app, and it's saying that Joel can't be found. It's the signal's dead. So Ronnie's getting very exasperated with Ed, saying, look, this guy, he's going to wish that he's never been born, but I'm not going to go after him now. So he throws the crowbar down and then stomps off.
And Dee Dee picks it up later.
Yeah, later on Dee Dee picks it up and she goes on
still.
Yes, exactly. Then we get to see a bit of Max and Lauren hearing the noise in the garden. That was kind of the biggest letdown for me.
Yeah, I know.
In that it really was nothing, it seems.
But
just a squeaky gate.
We're saying, it was Mason in the... I've just realised how stupid we've been.
Why?
It wasn't Mason in the summer house at this point, because he was in Speed Dial, because that's why Betsy ran downstairs.
Oh, yeah.
Door.
Well, he could have been going back and forth between the two, I don't know. But yeah, that turned out to be absolutely nothing. And then you get this scene of Ronnie in the alley, and this is still unexplained. This is a lingering thing, isn't it? Oh, something we mentioned earlier actually that's a lingering thing. Let's do this one first. I didn't write a note about that. So Ronnie's in an alley somewhere, saying to mysterious figure, "I need Joel dealt with. You need to go after him today." That is not brought up again for the whole of the episode.
Nope.
Any theories, anything at all? Because it's not Ed that he's talking to.
This is not Ed, because Ed would have known that they had a plan beyond the plan they already had.
What seems to have happened here, is Ronnie's like, I tried to get my brother to help me do Joel, and he's too soft. I've gone to find a professional hitman. Yes.
And this does in no way jive with any of the theories we've got. It's not explained or brought up again. It doesn't fold into Max and Lauren having been responsible. It doesn't fold into Dee Dee thinking that she did it. It doesn't fold into it was all Kit all along, unless he's talking to Kit.
No,
because what did he say? He the way he's talking to this person, it is a kind of removed formal conversation. He's not recruiting someone with a grievance against Joel that exists already. He's explaining his motivations to somebody.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense if it was Kit, because Kit would know what his deal is.
Yeah.
So this, you're right, feels like a heavy has been recruited.
So if this is somebody who then wrapped him up in plastic, because we're coming back to that thing again, that could make sense.
It could make sense, yeah, because maybe then, because they find this guy dead and they're thinking, how am I going to get credit for this?
Yeah, maybe.
Wrap him up and make it look like a hit.
Maybe. I don't know, because it
does seem like a stupid thing to do.
There was the bit at the viaduct later when Max arrives and he's there having a look around Joel's car, and then we see a figure in the background watching him.
Do we?
Yeah, we do. That. But then we don't know who it is, because only.
Oh, it's obviously this person then.
But not necessarily. It could have been Joel, because Joel eventually springs out on Max, doesn't he?
You're
Or
right.
it could have been Lauren just getting out the car to go and see what Max is up to. But equally, it could have been this hitman that Ronnie's hired.
Or hit lady.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it could have been a hit non-binary person. We don't know.
The fact that this has been put in and left lingering means there is something else that happened that night. If Ronnie's saying, you need to kill him tonight, and we find nothing more about it...
Did he really say you've got to kill him?
Yes. Yeah, I need him dealt with tonight.
Yeah, that's not the same thing. That's not the same as killing. That just means rough him up.
No, something's gone on here.
No, I agree with you on that. But I think it's possible this hitman did kill him. But saying, I want him dealt with is not the same as I want him killed, just to be clear.
I think that's what you say in polite conversation.
No, you don't. This is what you say so you can say later when he turns up dead, I didn't say that.
I didn't say to kill him.
You just interpret it wrong.
Yeah. So that's very unusual. And like Ronnie has not really been a huge part of this story at all, but it seems like maybe as the weeks go on, he's going to become more involved.
It feels like Ronnie's like, I can't believe you guys didn't think I was a serious suspect. Yeah. I'm deadly serious, actually.
The other thing that we didn't mention earlier was the scene of Dee Dee coming to Coronation Street and going to see Billy.
Yes.
And I completely missed that the first time. I think I was typing away at the computer, which is why I didn't write anything in the notes here. But she walks into Billy's house saying, I've done something terrible, and she's crying away. And nothing more has come from that. So this is clearly after she's been to see Joel and duffed him around the face with a crowbar. She's gone to confess to Billy.
Yes.
So he's known all along that she's been involved in it, and he has kept stum. I think this was the week of the funeral, so this is a few days before the funeral.
Oh my gosh.
And maybe it could be explained as, another reason why he went off the rails a little bit.
Theory, yeah. This is what added to his hang up
spiraling, yeah.
About people need me. I need to be a vicar. I'm important. People need me. Like that does make a lot more sense in hindsight about why he was so sure he had to go back to work, because he's probably thinking to himself, here's Dee Dee, she's an upstanding citizen, she's murdered somebody. While I've been away, who knows what other things have gone on? People could have been committing all kinds of crimes, like adultery. I don't know.
Well, I don't. Clearly, this is going to be used somewhere. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had it. But I don't really know how it can be.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that are still outstanding from this episode.
Because Dee Dee has already confessed to the police that she went after Joel. What more can Billy possibly know about it that she hasn't told the police?
If this was her saying, I slept with Joel outside of marriage. And I know that sounds stupid, but we know that she did now, because it gets revealed on Friday's episode. But it would make sense in a way for her to go and confess to Billy that she did this as a kind of way of using him as a sort of salve for her conscience without fully admitting the real crime that she's upset about. Like, she wants someone to say, it's okay, I've spoken to God, he's cool about it, and we can move on, because she can't say that she killed somebody, or she thinks she did, or she was responsible, whatever she thinks she did. But she can say that bit.
I don't believe that it could be that. Seriously, Dee Dee knows what Billy and Paul got up to before they were married. I would not go and confess this to a vicar who I know had been getting up to exactly the same thing.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying. I just think it's weird that Billy has been no looks at all or anything. It seems like such a weird thing to put in.
Yeah.
Why put that in? Okay, so if it is that, That's nothing. The reason I'm saying it could be the no sex before marriage thing is because if it is the confession that she thinks she killed Joel, that's the end point of that story, and there will be no more to it, and it's pointless to include it in the first place because no more development will happen. The only thing that could possibly happen is Billy going, "So it wasn't you in the end, then was it? It's all right then, isn't it? Good for you."
What did you?
Whereas if it is the baby, then we'll have a bit more of Billy going, "Whoa."
Yeah.
How's that going?
What did you think of this reveal from Dee Dee that she dropped her drawers for him?
I think I did say we spoke. I'm so certain we spoke about this before.
I am kind of disappointed. It always feels like whenever anybody on Coronation Street says I'm going to wait until marriage, they never do. They just can't help it.
Because it's too much drama, it's too much temptation for Coronation Street to let it go.
And
anytime anyone's got any sort of convictions, they always get tested.
It seemed like it was such an important thing for Dee Dee at the beginning of the year, because that was maybe one of the reasons why Joel went off and found solace in the arms of a much younger woman.
Maybe that means it's not the end. I just can't believe that
she'd have actually done it.
I wish there would be a flashback or something that had Joel in it that explains how he managed to convince her, because...
Oysters.
Yeah, well, that's
bit
what
of sexy
Sam
music,
tried to do, didn't
box
he?
of chocolates.
Sam tried it and he killed himself, and Joel tried it and now he's dead.
Yeah.
Well, listen, my issue with this is that in recent times in Coronation Street, we've had two religious women, Alia and Dee Dee. Both,
Alia was one, wasn't she?
Both say, I don't want to have sex before marriage, and I understand that there's a certain element of people that are going to say, that's wishful thinking, I think you're being naive, it's stupid to say you will not do that, it's very healthy to have sexual relationships before marriage. That's fine, but Alia and Dee Dee both live in a world where they know this. They've decided, in spite of all of this information that they've been given, and all of this discussion about healthy sexuality, they've decided that even so, I would prefer to remain a virgin until marriage. But both of them, despite having a higher hurdle than I'd say the average woman back in the day who was forced because of society to say that's what she wanted, they both have decided this for themselves. But even so, they
just for the drama and the pregnancy scare.
And I do think it's unfair to people, because there are people that do this. I think it's unfair to kind of go, you're just stupid and you haven't really thought it through, or you're just a man away from being convinced not to do it. Is there a woman who's ever... It's the same with Sinead going, I don't drink. And Corrie's like, yes, you will. Forget about it. And if you come on... And even like Yasmin, who was introduced originally as a woman who was very religious, and she wouldn't... She kept... She observed Ramadan and she wouldn't even drink water. There was even a line about it. She, a few years later, she's drinking wine and whatever. She didn't care.
I know not all soap characters. One of the things about soap characters is they're flawed human beings, but it is possible for characters to have convictions like this and actually stick to them. The only person I think who seems to have been very true to their religion, it feels like it's I've forgotten her brother's name. Alia's brother's name. I had it right. Zidane. And it feels like Zidane was punished for that by being made out to be the villain in the situation where his wife was cheating on him with Kate. Didn't Emily Bishop even have relations or have it off with a workman or something? Do you remember, like back in the or maybe she just dated him?
I'm not casting a judgment over whether I literally could not care less about any of this. It's not a big deal to me. I don't watch it and care. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to watch this show. But I just don't like it when people undermine somebody's sort of moral beliefs. Just for the drama. But I knew. But on the other hand, I knew this was going to happen because it felt like I really genuinely thought that Dee Dee was pregnant, and I can't remember what it was that made me think that. But things like when Lauren was talking to her about, I'm sure I said this last week. Well, yeah, talking to her about picking up a top for Frankie, and she's like, "I'm not interested."
Yeah, it would explain to some of Dee Dee's behaviours.
Doesn't mean that I care.
Yeah. I mean, do you? We're skipping ahead all over the place now, but hey, this whole episode was back and forth in time, so I think it's in keeping with it. We later see that Dee Dee is concealing a pregnancy kit in her flat in a bag, but we don't see her take it. Surely she's going to be taking that soon, so it wouldn't surprise me if next week we know one way or the other. Do you think she's going to be pregnant?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't need it.
Look, if I was worried about carrying a dead rapist's baby and I had a pregnancy test in the house, I'm sorry, I would take it immediately, because then I can know how close I am to a nice big glass of wine to get over the shock.
No, I don't think that a story benefits in any way from
it does.
Dee Dee being pregnant.
Here's my theory,
A new brother or sister for Frankie.
This was my theory. Like when I was last night, when I was 80% sure that this was all a big ruse and they were confuddling us, and really, actually, it wasn't Lauren and Max who killed Joel, and also that I still think there's an outside chance that Joel is still alive, and I'm thinking to myself, I reckon that he will appear when she gives birth. That's my prediction. Dee Dee's going to carry her baby to term, and when she's giving birth, Joel will appear, and we'll go, oh my gosh, it's a vision of Joel, and he'll be like, no, guess what? I'm really here.
Well, like you said, you have said that the body that was washed up on the body bag, we didn't see that was definitely Joel inside. And if they managed to get people have been doing these very far-fetched theories
really
about
stupid.
Did Gus identify the body as being his son's, even if it's I don't believe it. I know it's
stupid. Listen, I know it's stupid because not only would it not make any sense, because this will be the second murder mystery storyline in a row with the same group of characters where the person who's supposed to be dead isn't dead.
Yeah.
Because the first one was Lauren. The second one is it doesn't really make any sense that they would get so far in modern times to having a guy gets identified as being a dead body and it's not even this person it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
The third problem with this theory is that you'd have to find a conveniently dead person to wrap up who kind of looks plausibly enough like Joel to be able to pass the initial test.
Yeah, I know.
And those three things don't make any sense, but guess what?
We are asked to stretch we are asked to go with things quite a bit,
and the thing
but maybe
also
that is a step too far.
Is if this really did happen and I hadn't guessed this, and this is really what the story is, I would be so mad and say this doesn't make any sense. But if it does turn out to be true, I'll be like, yeah, well,
I think the thing with Coronation Street, there's only a limited number of characters who we're asked to believe go along with things, but actually in real life, there's a whole lot of other people who we never see on Coronation Street who would have to be involved with this and would maybe smell a rat at some point if this was all one big trick.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know.
It's starting to stretch.
A little bit. So we then get to see the scene, all the stuff in Noble Street between Joel and Dee Dee, her going up to him, telling him get out of the car. There's also that's interspersed with the Swain getting hit by a car, which was a pretty good hit. Though she'd said before that she was just clipped, but she went gambolling off the top of that like Lisa Duckworth. Yeah. Was Lisa Duckworth hit? We don't. No, maybe we didn't see much of her. Joyce Smedley, I think she had a bit of a tumble on the bonnet there. So she was pretty badly bruised, but she wanted justice, so she discharged herself from hospital quite quickly.
Well, she was just bored. The problem with this to me is that this is like, what's the word? Struck off kind of level of being a bad cop. Like, you don't get run over by a car in the pursuit of a what's it called, a mugging, and just not say anything because you didn't want to worry your daughter. Why would she ever find out? Yeah. You could have told everybody at work, I got run over. I mean, her story is, we wanted to investigate the Joel case, but I think this bit was a bit silly.
Yeah, was it just put in there? Because I think they seemed desperate for us to think that Swain could have possibly killed Joel.
I never thought
that she did.
I always believed
she was never there on the radar.
No.
But anyway, back to Joel and Dee Dee, sorry. So he's trying to convince her that he never lied about her. He loved her.
Lied to her, I guess.
She means everything to him. And Dee Dee says, look, I just don't believe you. Don't forget, you've been lying all this time. What about Frankie, your son, who you were trying to kill? She says he's beyond insane. That's Joel, not Frankie. I'm sure Frankie's lovely. And
kids are weird. though.
She
So
must have been
babies must be
stupid
insane.
to fall for Joel. She says, you like to play this knight in shining armour, but actually you're evil. You make me sick. It was interesting that she used that knight in shining armour line, because that was what he said to Lauren the first time he met her, wasn't it? Like, I'm the duty solicitor on your knight in shining armour,
See,
so it's true.
They missed a trick here by not revealing Dee Dee was pregnant before, but I don't know when she realised she was pregnant. But if I'm Dee Dee, I think it would have made me think of her as a more compelling option for the murderer if we knew that she was carrying Joel's child, but she was thinking, I've got to protect my kid from you. If you find out I've got your child, you might try to come after me like you did Lauren.
Yeah, I mean, maybe at this point, she didn't know she was pregnant. Cause
I don't think she does.
She found out about what Joel was like mid-August, I'm going to say. So a good month and a half had passed, long enough to have missed a period.
August.
And maybe started getting wondering a little bit. And this is a thing, isn't it? Like, nobody ever on Coronation Street seems to notice they miss a period until it gets pointed out to them.
She's stressed
and
out.
Also,
she's stressed out. Not everyone has regular periods, okay? That's a myth.
I know. All it takes is for one night together for somebody to get pregnant as well. It's such a soap thing.
I tell you what, we could solve a lot of Western, even in South Korea and Japan. The governments are struggling with plummeting birth rates. They need to discover the secret of Weatherfield men, because they are virile as heck.
They really are. Joel is. He's fathered possibly 2 children in 1 year at this point.
Well, he's also got Maeve.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
They're going to have to form a support group.
He's going to be, if he wants dead, he'd be coining it in at Father's Day, I tell you.
Well, I tell you what, though, he's going to be paying a lot out in child support.
Yeah, this is true.
Swings and roundabouts. Also, we said we suspected Gus might have killed Joel. Maybe to stop him making new grandchildren that he has to pay for. Not sure.
The other thing with these two is, again, it's a silly soap thing, but you'd have thought if Dee Dee had decided to, go to bed with Joel, one or both of them might have decided to take precautions. Or did they just not have any in the flat because it was obviously having sex was such a no-no area?
I don't know.
Then there was no...
Well, Joel would have had them.
Oh yeah,
but I guess when did he look?
This was
find out, aren't we?
I mean, this is a long time after he'd finished things with his girls. So yeah, he probably wasn't going to have any.
I don't know.
By the way, just while you were talking, I was just doing a little bit of Googling, and I was right. Miklos Zadik was a Hungarian workman that Emily Bishop, or Nugent as she was then, lost her virginity to. So she had all her morals as well, but even she dropped her knickers for a hunky Hungarian workman. So
the myth of the virtuous woman.
Nothing is sacred on Coronation Street. I just don't really buy it from Dee Dee.
It just doesn't make sense. I'm going to tell you, even if you don't believe me, you're going to have to take this for a fact. There are women in the world who have not had sex before marriage, and it's not like a failure rate of 3 out of 3.
Right, okay. I forgot where we even are now. So yeah, back to this Joel and Dee Dee scene.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. So we know that Sven got
basically
run over.
he brings up the fact that she dropped her drawers for him. He's saying that better than those skanky little girls that were going after me. This is when he goes up to her and she whacks him with the crowbar and he's down on the floor. Advert break, and when it comes back again, she's there crying, she's sorry, she's going to try and help him, and he does the old horror movie trope of grabbing her by the ankle as she gets too close to him. That's the last that we see of the pair of them together, because the next thing that we know, Kit's getting this anonymous call from Dee Dee saying, go to Noble Street, there's a guy that's been hit round the face with a crowbar, or whatever it was that he was told. And he turns up there, and this is when he smashes into the other car on the way, which was a kind of easy, quick way of explaining.
That's fine.
I mean, I suppose it makes sense that he would have known that it was him, because he deleted himself off of the database, didn't he, as being a red car that was there.
This is the thing that still is not explained, even at the end of Friday's episode. Why did Kit... Right, number one, Kit never wondered, how did this person get my direct phone call? And they haven't explained this. I don't know if Coronation Street... Yeah. Don't know if Coronation Street has not thought this through or
Maybe
what.
Maybe it's just a little service they have at Weatherfield Police Station, your local friendly community police station. Just call us on our mobile if you want to. We'll be there for you 24 hours a day.
It wouldn't surprise me, and I don't want to speak this to the universe in hopes it doesn't happen, but it wouldn't surprise me if at some point paramedics and policemen are just put on on-call status, whereby they take 999 calls to their personal
Directly
phones.
from the public, yeah.
So yeah, he didn't consider this, and he also has never taken this into consideration when he's investigating. Like
No.
we never saw him go, right, Joel's dead, I'm investigating it. I know that somebody beat him up. I could pin it on them. Who is it?
Yeah.
It doesn't really
we didn't
make
get
sense.
to see Dee Dee concealing her voice, did we, to make this
Hello?
phone call? We just saw the other end of it.
Hello, it's me, Alina's grandma. You don't know me. But guess what?
So anyway, he turns up at Noble Street, smashes the other car,
accident.
scrapes it, and then we see the taunting Joel scene, etc., etc. There was nothing new there.
I don't think we mentioned, but at some point in this episode, we do see a flashback of Kit leaving with his Nathan file.
Yeah, I think that's later on.
Does this happen before he goes to see Joel or after?
After, I think.
Okay, so in the information that we have so far, Kit turns up and beats him again. And threatens
beats him a bit.
They have a bit of a
manly wrestle over the car bonnet.
Well,
don't they?
basically, Joel's going, don't bother having a go at me because I know about Nathan. And Kit's like, well, I'm the good guy, so screw you.
Yeah, so it's after that he then goes back to the station and gets the Nathan file as if nobody's going to notice it's missing, but maybe he just wants to doctor the evidence that's in it or something. I don't know. So he's obviously been put in quite a state.
This is still an unanswered question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this comes a couple of scenes later.
This is still unanswered. So Kit comes home after this. He deletes his phone call log and he grabs the bottle of alcohol.
Yeah.
Then he goes back to the police station, takes Nathan's file and goes who knows where.
Yeah.
So if the theory is true, and there's no reason to think so at this point because Corrie's told us that case is closed. If he did kill Joel, he's gone to see Joel, come back, grabbed Nathan's file, gone out again, followed up after Max and Lauren, and then found Joel afterwards.
Yeah,
and he's
possibly
got this file with him at this point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it would
maybe.
make sense if he's trying to get rid of Kit, that he would get rid of Joel. Sorry, that he's got this file with him to say, look, nothing you can do about it. I've got this file. I'm going to rip it in front of your face.
Yeah.
Or I don't
guess.
know. I don't know.
This is
he's
what
taking
happens.
it somewhere.
See, this is what happens if you do all your filing on paper, isn't it? And you don't put them on the police computer, or dare I say it, back them up to the cloud, which, as we know, is already quite a rampant issue among Weatherfield residents. But
Yeah. It's
anyway,
it's a hard life, isn't it?
I think we also see at this point Joel making his phone call to Dee Dee, and it's when Joel switches his phone on here that Lauren suddenly gets the notification on her app that, well, this is where he is, because she's been trying to find him, same as Dee Dee, and because he has to switch his phone on to make this phone call for Dee Dee, he suddenly appears on the app. So she's like, she bolts up, calls Lisa, and is like, I found him, okay, you need to call me back. She springs to her feet and tells Max, we need to go after him.
Now, this is weird too, because Lisa has a message on her phone from Lauren telling her that she knows where Joel is, and she's never questioned this or mentioned it or even heard it, perhaps.
I don't think that she did she?
So what happened there? That doesn't make any sense.
I'm not sure. Anything that we're missing, and is really obvious to all our listeners, by the way, please do write in and shame
I want
us
to know.
for not knowing things.
I want to know.
So Max and Lauren leave number 8. Lauren passes him the CS spray and says,
Are you sure it was Lisa that Lauren phones and not Dee Dee?
maybe it was Dee Dee. I don't know. Oh, actually, I've got in the notes here that this is when Joel leaves the message for Dee Dee after. God, this is too confusing, isn't it?
Okay, I told you it's not exactly clear the chronological order of these things.
Maybe you're
and
right.
you said, oh, no,
I'm
I
pretty
know
sure,
everything.
pretty sure.
And you don't even know
look,
in your own
at
notes.
this point, it looks like Max is going to go off on his own to confront Joel, which tied in with what we'd been told on Wednesday. And we don't find out until much later in the episode that actually she tagged along with him in the passenger seat.
And I'm still seeing people on Twitter not realising that she was in the car.
She was with him all along.
They clearly show her getting in the car.
Yeah, later on.
You might have missed it because it's easy to miss things, but that's what happened.
So we see Max arrive at the viaduct. He finds Joel's car, finds the suicide note inside, takes a look up the top of the viaduct and is like, right, I'm going up there. Because obviously, I guess he must have thought...
Up there?
Who?
Joel.
Yeah, what exactly was Joel's plan? Because he's got this other car in the field, hasn't he? Which hasn't really been mentioned since the episode that it was found in. But it was supposed that maybe he drove and left that one car there so that he could then drive off in the car in the field.
Take his
Never
luggage,
got a chance
put that in the car, leave the note in the original car, and drive away. But there's no reason to go all the way up those stairs. I've seen those stairs. I didn't bother going up there. I don't know why you would to fake your death when you didn't need to.
But I mean, you know, Max got it as well. His little spidey senses were tingling, and he thought, somebody says they want to kill themselves here. There's a nice high building. Maybe they're going to track themselves off. And so,
well, you don't need to go up there to fake it.
But no, he didn't.
Joel
was possibly watching Max. This extra person who we said was possibly the person that Ronnie was speaking to in the alley, following everybody all night, could also quite more likely have been Joel, who sees Max go up the steps and then follows him up the steps. Because when Max goes up the steps, nobody's there.
Right, so, okay. And here's a stupid question. Why are Max and Lauren going after Joel?
Teach him a lesson, innit? Max is saying he needs to be brought to justice. I'm going to do him in. Right, I'm going to spray him with CS spray and it's going to really sting.
So he finds the note.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'm going to stop him from killing himself by telling... By what? Wouldn't you just let him kill himself? Do they know he's faking it at this point?
I don't know. Just going up there to
check.
Max
sees the suicide note and goes, I better just see if he's doing it.
I think if I'd driven all the way out there, I probably wouldn't just see a suicide note and go, well, somebody's done my job for me. Thanks, Joel. I'm going to go back to bed.
And here's another question. Why did Joel drive to this spot with his car and his note and his luggage, get out of the car, watch the car, and then follow Max up? You didn't need to get out of the car without your luggage. You get out of the car with your luggage and take it to the other car. You don't need to get out of the car and watch as a lurking shadow figure to see if anyone's going to follow you.
Maybe he just forgot it. Maybe he got out the car, went to his other car, and got, I've forgotten my luggage. Went back and sees Max out there.
If I leave my luggage there, everyone's going to know this is a big setup.
I don't know. Basically,
some of these things don't really make any sense. No matter how you cut it.
I'm sure it does.
Explain
I've got my faith
then.
in Coronation Street. So anyway, Max goes at the top, and it's a railway bridge. He goes up there, and suddenly Joel jumps him from behind and holds him over the edge. So we're starting to see more of what we'd seen on Wednesday's episode.
So why? Okay, here's another question. Why would Joel attack Max?
Why not?
Because he's trying to escape and make it look like he's killed himself. This is just a complication. You just hide and wait for them to go away. Then you take your luggage and leave. You don't attack them because they'll then have said, I saw him there and he didn't kill himself. From his perspective, what's he up to? Why is he jumping out at Max?
So you think that he should have just let Max do his thing and hid?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. He hid from Ed and Ronnie.
I don't know.
Doesn't make any sense. Why would he just? Why would he jump on him? Because it just gives the game away. Because then he's committed himself to having to get rid of Max as a problem. Because Max is now a witness to the fact he hasn't killed himself.
Yeah.
So he's now committing himself to having to kill Max, isn't he?
Yeah.
And then if he does kill Max, if he kills Max, his whole suicide plan has gone down the Swanee because it doesn't make any sense that he was planning to kill himself, drove to a bridge, saw Max, attacked Max, killed Max, and then killed himself as well.
So picky. Just enjoy the drama of it, Gemma.
This is why they don't bother doing stuff like this normally, because people pick holes in it.
Okay, right. Anyway, never mind. Kit, back in the present, doesn't seem to believe Max and this conveniently placed rock. He's convinced that there was somebody else there that night and says that, show me how you hit him.
Yeah, that's right. He doesn't believe him.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say one thing. I did say previously that people being stupid is not a plot hole. And maybe I should just listen to myself.
Yeah, Joel was just being stupid.
He was just acting in the spur of the moment.
So, back to the past again. Max is holding this CS spray to Joel, and Joel says, like, I'm not scared of you at all. They kind of circle each other for a bit. Max is taunting him about his goodbye cruel world letter, and Joel is just still mega cocky throughout all of this and says, well, Max, you're not really even Lauren's type. She wants somebody like me, a real man. She really love me. And Max is like fuming at this. It's really, getting on his nerves. It's really bugging him. And Joel eventually makes a grab for him, pushes him to the edge again, and this is when he is hit over the head by a brick and he stumbles. Max is scrabbling back like...
Max is not the one who hit him with this brick.
No. I thought that Paddy was great here, like just scrabbling backwards, looking at what's playing out in front of him, because he knew that it was Lauren, but it took a good 10-15 seconds of screen time for Coronation Street to finally unfuzz her and say, ta-da, it's Lauren, she's the one that did it. So I'm not really surprised, even though that Max and Lauren are very good friends. If my very good friend had hit somebody over the head with a brick, I would probably still be a bit freaked out by that as well.
Of course you would.
So Max kind of, once he regains himself a little bit, goes over to Joel and he's like, he's dead. Because he gets hit. He? Yeah, is this when I can't even remember what happens here. Does he get hit twice? He does, doesn't he?
Yeah, he gets hit, and then this is the moment when Joel... It's kind of like what happened with Callum in the live episode, where he's attacking Kylie. No, who's he attacking? Sarah.
Lou,
then and then he kind of slumps, and you don't know what's happening because the shot is too tight, and then it happens again, and you're like, oh, okay, something's happening I don't understand, and then so the first hit was Max going, oh my goodness, and then the second hit is
he's dead.
Lauren
he's dead,
finishing him off.
Max is like, we need to call the police, She's like, well, look, he was trying to kill you. I just panicked. What are we going to tell Frankie? She realises straight away just how much deep doo-doo that she's in here. And she's worried about her son. They're going to take him away from me.
They would do.
She's like, the police are never going to believe her.
They might give him back eventually, but there will be a bit of complication.
So Lauren's the one who done it. How... Do you think this is the end for Lauren? Is this a writing on the wall for her? This is a character with a limited shelf life? Or is it going to be a case of, well, maybe we could be asked to forgive her? Because even Verity on the after show was saying, I've got some sympathy for Lauren. I don't condone... Quite a lot of them were saying, obviously I don't condone murder, but... and Verity was saying, well, I understand why she acted the way she did. And it wasn't self-defence, but she was defending... somebody whose life was at risk. What was she supposed to do?
Right, the problem here is that they've driven to confront him and then he ended up dead. You're going to find it very difficult to defend yourself in court, to say, oh no, Your Honour, I didn't have any ill intentions towards him. It just so happened that I was going to confront him and then he died. Do you see? It doesn't make any sense. What were you going there to do? You can't really have an innocent explanation. There isn't one because I don't even know what they were thinking. I'm not sure what their plan was. But the other thing is, like, in fiction, I'm fairly sure quite often people will get away with stuff like this where they end up like killing somebody in a kind of completely explainable way. And then that's the end of it, and there's no more questions asked. But in real life, I don't think it's the covering up. That's the problem.
Mm.
How many times in real life has somebody really gotten away with killing someone and saying it was self-defense and then covering up the body and throwing it somewhere or disposing of it in some manner and never saying anything until they got found out? Does that really happen? Do you get away with it? Are there any big cases I'm thinking I can't think of? Because, like I said, fiction happens all the time.
Yeah.
Especially to young, beautiful girls.
Does this count as manslaughter rather than murder? Because clearly,
I'm not getting involved.
I don't think it was premeditated, but like you said, they certainly had some kind of intentions when they went there. But she didn't clock him round the head because she was like, right, at last, this is my opportunity. Because Max was the one that was wanting to go out after him anyway.
It's being able to prove it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not very often on Coronation Street that somebody does kill somebody else and gets away with it. Now, maybe we're seeing a bit more recently. Toya is still walking free after admitting to the world, yes, I drove into that wall on purpose. And even saintly Anna Windass, who stabbed Phelan in very similar circumstances to this, because Phelan shot Michelle in the back of the bistro, and Anna decides to disarm him by running into him with a knife.
And she turned up specifically to confront him.
Yeah, quite, exactly. And she's like, la la la, I'm free, everything's fun. So it could well be that Lauren gets away with this, and we're supposed to believe that we're just supposed to be happy with this because, well, as Ed said, he deserves to die.
But how's this gonna shake out? Because
you've
still got Max, and yeah, okay. So the other problem I have with this is if the whole thing is a ruse and Kit is involved, or Joel, whatever, somebody wrapped, if Corrie hasn't dropped the ball and Joel really was wrapped up by somebody else who's not involved in this, and Kit was involved, why is Kit asking him, well, specifically, how did you hit him with a brick? Yeah, he knows he doesn't know the answer to this because he's the one who did it, or he knows more than he's letting on.
I wonder, I don't know, but one of the things, like, I've not been a huge Lauren fan. I think I liked her more when she first came into it. I really liked her when she was part of that racist group. But I was, she's just been really miserable, hasn't she? So when I saw that she was there holding the brick, I was like, oh, okay, well, this is who I thought it was. Eventually, although fair play to them, I have been saying Kit all along. But on the plus side, this probably means that Lauren's going to go. And she really does kind of seem to fit the type of character who doesn't stay in the show for very long, doesn't she? We've seen characters like this come and go. They're into the show for a couple of years, then off they go again. And I thought, well, okay, I didn't really like her. Now she's going to go again. But still in the back of my head is the thought that maybe she won't, particularly if it ends up turning out that she didn't actually kill him. Although what they did do to him certainly deserves more than just a slap on the wrist, because they did throw him over a bridge to, and that's got to count for something, right?
Yeah, you can't just throw people off bridges.
So do you think that this is going to be the beginning of the end for Lauren, or are we? And if she does, what's going to happen to Frankie? Or
I think long gone are the days where there's inconvenient plots for a character Corrie wants to keep.
Yeah.
I think Corrie's now jumped the shark a bit. And I can't pinpoint exactly when it was, but I'm sure other people could tell me when they think it was. That, it's just got to the point where they're not going to let up if they think
it's worth keeping someone. They can let him literally get away with murder.
I think Gary, to me, is a pretty notable.
Oh yeah, Gary, of course.
Because I do think there's a lot to be said about what really did happen and why did he stave his head in.
Well, yeah, and with Rana as well. We know that he was not directly, but indirectly responsible for Rana's death. There's a whole load of killers still roaming on the street. Lauren, you've got nothing to worry about, love. Don't worry about it. Yeah, you'll be fine. Anyway, so
if they want to keep Lauren, they will right around this problem.
Well, I also found watching Wednesday's episode, I was feeling strangely invested in the Max and Lauren relationship, particularly the bit where he tells her that he loves her and they have a little kiss. I did think that was actually quite sweet. And I did like them as a couple, couple-ish, way back when they were involved in Griff's group. It was just when she came back into the show, she never really quite clicked for me. But, maybe this is the beginning of a new era for Lauren, and maybe one that I enjoy. I don't know. So, anyway, what drama? Back to the present. Max is still being interviewed by Kit, but he's tired. He's got his head on the desk, I think, at some point. And Joel's wittering on about angles and snooker, and I was always really good at snooker. Clearly, Max, you don't know what you're talking about, because the angle of impact this brick had on Joel's head, you could never have done. It doesn't line up with what you're telling me. So Max, back in the past, is realising that they could all pass this off as Joel's suicide, and he says, look, if we just chuck him off the edge here, and maybe he'll get hit in the same place by a rock down there as you've just hit him with the brick, we'll get away with it. So they take him to the edge. Max pushes him over. This is the same scene that we saw on Wednesday, except we get a few extra bits of her helping to heave this guy up off the floor as well. I did enjoy on the behind the scenes stuff that we saw, the scenes of Callum Lill just flopped out on the on the railway tracks there, and we got to see the bricks a few times as well, didn't we? The little spongy brick that they used, and it seemed that Kate Fitton derived much pleasure from hitting Callum Lill around the head with this brick as many times as she could. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So back in the past again.
Max is like, well, but back in the present.
Max is still saying I was on my own and Kit doesn't believe him. So in the past, Max is sitting by the side of the road in David's car. Lauren's sobbing on about how she's a killer. Max says, look, Frankie is better off without Joel. He's lucky to have you. Look, I'm going to make this okay, I promise. But she's like, no, I don't believe you. I don't blame her. If I've just done this, I'd be pretty irrationally lost my mind as well. And so But then he does the most irrational thing, which, as I think I said earlier, throwing the brick out into the field where it quite possibly could be recovered at a later date. Yeah, maybe not the best thing to do.
I don't know how they found this bloody rock. It doesn't make any sense how they found this rock.
Well,
how did they find this rock?
They're just combing the field. You know, maybe it's another thing that Kit had Tinker out to do. Like, I'm going to send you out into this field in the middle of November and I don't want you to come back until you found a murder weapon. 3 weeks later, I found something, Kit.
I guess the fact that spray was there in the same place made them look more closely at this rock.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because the other thing also, which, you know, they haven't brought into it, but it would have been probably part of what they did to prove that Max is indeed the person who did it, is to check David's car for detritus from this rock, because it would match.
Yeah.
There would be dust or bits of gravel or some kind of broken off bit of a rock that would be still in David's car.
Well, as we say, you live and you learn, Max. You're not going to make that mistake again, are you, on your next kill? So Max is told, back in the present, Kit still doesn't really believe him that he was on his own, but the evidence that he's being told has led him to say, well, I'm charging you for murder. So, after the break, Lauren's being interviewed next, and she's got a very good poker face. She is going along with this story that Max has... Well, we find out later what he said in the letter is go along with everything that I say. This is the story we're gonna stick to. I mean, he didn't give too many details in the letter, did he? So it's probably quite convenient for her that she was able to come up with the exact same details than he. But never mind, I won't hold that against him. And she's asked about this tracker, and she says, "Well, I just wanted to use it to make sure that Joel didn't go near me. I didn't want to go after him with it." Not true. She's sticking to Max's story. She says, look, he got back, I woke up, this is when I went outside and saw him in the suitcase, that's what Carla saw, and Max told me the suitcase didn't matter, and because I loved him, I just went along with it. He doesn't believe it, but you can't prove that she's lying, I suppose, at this point. Craig comes round number 8, it's the next morning, and he tells David and Shona that Max has been charged.
They're still both, you know, dealing with this information that Clayton is in hospital.
Yeah. So this just adds to the drama. Never mind what's going on with Jesse and Gail at the moment. Like,
who?
Jesse and Gail. The fact that they're engaged and nobody seems to want to...
Yeah.
This is a bizarre story.
There was a woman in it called Gail.
Once upon a time.
Oh, yes. I think how is she related to David, though? I don't know. Is she, like,
honestly,
the landlady?
What is this story doing? What is happening with Gail? Why is she not in this? It is a big Platt story, and she's nowhere to be seen.
She's planning her nuptials.
So, Dee Dee's back at her flat later. This is where she's trying to hide the pregnancy kit from Ed and Ronnie. Bizarrely, it's in her bag.
No. It's a pregnancy test. A pregnancy kit is probably got a bit more fluid involved in it.
She's got this pregnancy test in her bag. Does she expect that they're going to come in and say, "I'm just going to root around in your bag, Dee Dee"?
He goes for the cupboard to get some tea bags out, and she's like, "Get lost." But
why did she have to hide the bag in the cupboard?
No, I don't know.
Because
everybody immediately gravitates towards a pregnancy test in any scene.
Anyway, they're trying to convince her to just have a chat with us.
Let's watch a film.
And she's like, "No, leave me alone. I need some time on my own."
On Netflix. You want to watch that?
So David, meanwhile,
it's got that bloke from Schitt's Creek in it.
David, meanwhile, is trying to get some information from Swain in the street. Sees Lauren by the bus stop, strides over to her and says, "Right, you need to tell Kit that Max is innocent. I don't believe a word you're saying." But she's like, no, she's sticking to the same story.
Why does he think that she knows whether Max is innocent or not?
I just don't think that he believes that Max is capable of this. Yeah, I think so.
How does he work that out so fast?
He's a smart cookie, is David. Say no more. Kit's in the pub, all worn out after everything that's gone on. Swain finds him and says, look, why was Lauren pulled in for questioning? Why grill her if you've already charged Max? And he says, look, I know that Lauren was there that night. I know it. Mate, again, this could tie into, was he there as well? Because we do not know
where Kit went with the notes about Nathan.
No.
But the thing is, though, if he's involved, why is he rocking the boat?
I don't know.
This is why Swain was under suspicion at a certain point, because she was saying things like, oh, well, definitely, Joel killed himself. If that's what everyone else thinks. Does everyone else think that? It must have killed himself. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, the episode ends with Lauren reading out the note from Max saying, I love you, and if you love me, you'll do as I ask. So this is the reveal of how Lauren knew what to say to the police, and it was his plan all along. What a guy.
When Swain was saying, I think he killed himself, did anyone say to her, doesn't make any sense because he wrapped himself up? How did that work?
No, I don't think so.
I'm just wondering if there's... I'll give up.
So,
I quit the show.
No, you don't. So, that was the end of Friday's episode, and I am still very, very intrigued as to what's going to happen on Monday. I've got no clue what's going to be going on, and even whether, is it just going to be this story, or is it going to be a mixture of other stories? It feels like there's a whole lot still to come here. I was kind of hoping it'd be more drawn to a conclusion, but it looks like they're hoping to drag this out. Well, that sounds like a negative way of saying it. It looks like they're planning to extend this for definitely weeks and months to come, doesn't it?
Well, there are definitely some outstanding things that came up in the episode that are, number one, you got Max and Lauren, the fact that Max didn't actually do it and Lauren did. You got Dee Dee being pregnant possibly, and you've got Ronnie with his hitman, with his thug.
Yeah, I hope we get to see a lot more Ronnie. I'm very intrigued by that.
I've got to give a shout out because Sophie on our Facebook group did ask to be shouted out that she guessed it would be Lauren. So congratulations.
Well, she's not the only one, Sophie.
Okay, so congratulations to everybody who guessed that it was Lauren.
If you guessed it was Lauren all the way along, right from the beginning, and you're stuck to your guns, then big congratulations to you.
No. I don't know.
So, episode as a whole then, Gemma, we said that it kind of lost its steam towards the end. But you said in the short yesterday you were bamboozled. Now you've had time for it to process a little bit more. Would you say that you did like it on the whole? Presentation and all?
Right, the music I didn't like. I thought the music, like I said before, it felt like an N64 game from like 1997.
I don't know why, but it didn't really bother me. I think it's worn me down so much. Maybe a year ago, 2 years definitely, I'll be watching this episode and going, what on earth is that? Coronation Street doesn't need incidental music in the background. And I still think it doesn't need it. It 100% did not need for any of that to be in last night's episode.
Well,
we've had 60 years worth of big reveals of murderers and massive truths that have come out without having all of that malarkey. So even though it didn't need it, it didn't really bother me that it was there. So I think this is the one step closer towards me saying, oh no, Coronation Street should use dramatic music and wonky sound effects, which is probably what I think that they're trying to get us to think.
It depends on whether if you watched it back without the music, would it be as impactful?
Yeah,
you don't actually know the answer.
No, I don't know. I'm sure they could have done as good a job without it, but they have decided that this is what Corrie is and has now. I don't think it detracts from it too much. And yes, I totally get that people are saying this is not what Corrie is, it's not. It totally isn't. But I've given up on trying to resist it. I'm sorry.
I totally get why people, and I totally, I agree with them, that you can watch that and say, oh, this doesn't feel like Coronation Street. That's for definite. Because to a certain extent, although now the Max is involved in this very heavily, there was a certain point at which you could have taken the whole plot of this and all the characters who were all new and put them in a completely different TV show, and it wouldn't have changed anything about Corrie, and it would have made a TV show, an ITV gritty crime drama about a scallywag girl and a nasty solicitor. Do you know?
Yeah.
It could have been just taken wholesale out. I don't know.
How does it compare? Because this is what's been brought up in my mind to Phelan, Vinny, and Andy, because that was a similarly gritty You know,
Maybe...
the villain walked away smiling from that one, and here he's been drowning in the river. By the way, how did you enjoy the scene of Joel slowly falling towards the water?
We said about it. It looked funny, didn't it?
Did we talk about that?
Yeah.
That was all done on a little green table, wasn't it? It was shown in the presentation
Snooker
afterwards.
table.
Maybe it was Kit's snooker table. What were we saying?
Well, you asked me a question and then you told me something else.
Sorry. So how did it compare to Annie and Vinny's deaths? Because I don't think that had any of this kind of music. I mean, if it did, it didn't have very much. And that was mega effective. And I remember watching that, being completely on the edge of my seat. And very occasionally on Coronation Street, it's like, I can feel my heart racing. I'm like sweating a little bit. And I didn't really feel that for yesterday's episode. I was going along with it, going, oh, this is quite big. But I didn't feel it was quite so raw and harrowing as that had been. So it was funny when some people on Twitter or wherever were saying, you know, this is the worst episode of Corrie ever, this is so completely un-Corrie-like. But, you know, sometimes that is what Corrie's like, isn't it?
Well, you can definitely point at that Pat Phelan storyline and say, this is when it started to go down a route I'm not happy with. And to a certain extent, you'd be right to say that you know, that was the beginning of normalising this kind of storyline on Coronation Street. It doesn't particularly bother me because I like the subject matter. I like the crime stuff. I am a bit annoyed at the idea that it does feel like somebody came up with an idea for a crime drama and it got rejected, so they just added it onto ITV Corrie, you know? Really does feel like a completely separate storyline. I don't know how fair it is to say that, though. There are... But it's because there are so many new characters. If they had just used established characters that had been in it for, you know,
I think
10
that was
years
probably
or
one of my
longer,
biggest issues with this story.
That was the biggest problem, is that they went, let's just do... It's kind of a standalone story with characters that don't mean anything.
Yeah.
And I don't want to belittle any of them, because I said before how much I think they're great and I appreciate them. But it's a show that is about characters and about the history of characters and about long-standing characters. It's
that's
not
what
a show,
a soap opera is, isn't it?
It shouldn't be a show that relies on story over characters, and that's what they've done here.
I can't see, you know, if we fast forward a year, is anything that's happened tonight going to have any long-term consequences apart from maybe Dee Dee having a baby?
And maybe Max or Joel or Lauren will be in prison, or Kit.
Yeah, but exactly. If Lauren's in prison or if she's off the show, then that's not a long-term consequence, because she also wasn't in the show 2 years ago.
Yeah. If you could take... It's kind of like... where you kind of take a sample of like a tree or something in different years and compare them. Like... Is Corrie in 2020 going to be different from Corrie in 2026? Considering the storyline happened, is there going to be a ring on the tree? I don't think so. It's just going to move on with something else.
Exciting while that happened.
It's kind of like all the residents of Corrie are kind of unbothered by this, apart from Carla.
Yeah.
And everyone who's been in it for less than 10 years is like super involved.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Less than 5 years. But, you know, on the whole, I'm going to say I enjoyed the week.
I enjoyed the week. I thought the last 15 minutes was a big letdown.
I was just waiting for there to be a big twist of aha, but it never really happened.
I don't like
Wednesday's episode
Wednesday's
episode was my favourite. I thought that Paddy Beaver was brilliant. I liked how it kind of felt like the stakes were raised when he was on the viaduct. I liked the body being dropped into the water. I liked the fact that it was all set at night, which I've said before I enjoy about Coronation Street on the rare occasions that they do that. But it didn't quite hit the highs of some of the other comparable episodes, like the Vinny and Andy one for me for some reason. And partly that reason is the characters involved. Not that Andy and Vinny were particularly long-term characters either. I mean, Phelan wasn't at the end of the day.
No, that's true.
But I think...
And neither was Andy.
Yeah, that's what I said. But yeah, it was a fine week. It was a fine week.
And neither was Luke.
No, that is true. That's true. I think.
Yeah, I think this is like a kind of story of diminishing returns, right? When you compare the last three killers, even though Joel isn't a killer, this is a killer storyline, really, because somebody died. But you've got Pat Phelan, you've got Uncle Stephen, and then you've got Joel. So we started off with, and go back one more, and you've got like John Staple, whatever. But really, you're comparing everything to the OG Richard Hillman.
Yeah.
So you had Pat, who kind of arguably didn't really kill Michael, and then he did kill Vinny and Andy.
Well, he got Andy to kill Vinny, didn't he? So he killed Andy, he killed Luke.
Those people weren't in the show for very long. Then you had Uncle Stephen, who killed a bunch of people that were literally introduced to be killed by Uncle Stephen. And now you've got Joel, who was embroiled in a whodunnit with a bunch of people that have only been in the show for a couple of years.
Plus Carla.
Carla's kind of like, the sticking point here, but she's only there because she fancies Lisa. But, it feels like... And it also comes so close after Uncle Stephen. I don't think there's been a time when we've watched Corrie and there have been two concurrent villains of this magnitude in the show at the same time, because Joel was in the show when Uncle Stephen was on a rampage. He just wasn't involved in it, but they were still in the show at the same time.
Yeah. They need to probably give it a bit of a rest.
It feels
now.
like an escalation, like like when
but
a serial
also,
killer
I'm kind of feeling
starts to kill too many victims at once and then they get caught. It's like Corrie's like escalating and they're going to get caught.
It wouldn't surprise me if Kit slots into that role now.
I wouldn't.
It's just something that I don't trust about him.
I don't mind it, but I know other people do, and I want everyone to enjoy Corrie. And if Corrie said, "Okay, we're going back to just making it about relationships and characters and friends and family and banter and silly drama, back like it was in the insert your favourite decade here," I wouldn't moan about it because I've had my fun. You know?
Yeah.
I'm not going to complain.
And I enjoyed Corrie when it was that. It's just enjoying it for different reasons. I enjoy this for certain reasons. I enjoy that for certain reasons.
Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is, the people that don't like Corrie because of this, I'm not going to say, well, I'm gonna not watch it if it goes back to how it used to be. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You're perfectly entitled to say this is a bit too much of a jump the shark moment, but I don't mind it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it's come together. It feels like we made a quiche and it kind of scrambled.
What do you give it out of 5 for this week?
I don't know what to give it.
You got to give it a score. I think
yes,
because it didn't completely hit the highs. I'm thinking of other. Yeah, I think I'm just going to go 4.
I wonder whether if they hadn't have had the Killer and the Cobbles a special episode, if I would have liked it more. I think that really kind of messed it up a bit for me, because not necessarily the programme itself, but the fact that it existed. Because I don't think we've ever... When was the last time we had a show like that?
Yeah, never. I like that they did it.
It's too hyped for what happened. Yeah,
it was a little bit. I mean, but it felt like the kind of thing that should be at the end of a massive year-long spanning story,
or a stunt week, or a soap week, or
I mean, they haven't had a super soap week this week, but this could have been it. But it felt like there have been bigger stories in the past that this could have worked with. But hey, if they're just it's part of their strategy to get people over to ITVX, then fair play to them.
If this
maybe they'll do it again. If
this
is a regular thing, great.
Then it makes more sense than it being this, because
it was an enjoyable show.
I don't know. I think the problem is that it put too much pressure on my expectations of what was going to happen on Friday. I'd much rather it had been, like you said, at the end of a soap week or a stunt week or something, where it's like, oh, and in this story, we got these 3 characters who were in it, and what do you think will happen there? And and also, this happened in the other storyline, and if it had been a bit more of a mixed up week, like, it would have been great, not that she would have come in, to have had Helen Worth in there going, yeah, it's been a big week for Gail too. We went and picked our sugared almond colour for our wedding that we're going to have, me and Jessie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm giving this week's 4 conveniently placed rocks out of 5. Or bricks, or whatever it was that she smashed them over the head with. I thought it was good. There are a few threads that I wish hadn't been left as they were. I wasn't a massive fan of the fact that they use a volume wall, even though I get why they did.
It's so funny how we have different, like we have problems, but with different things.
And the characters that are involved, I'm just a bit so on.
If this was a show, any other show, it wouldn't have been a big deal at all, because they're all fantastic actors. Their characters are really interesting. It's just, it's a soap about characters that have been in the show for 50 40, 50, 30, 20, whatever years. And you're expecting me to care about these characters that have been in it for 2 years.
But the thing is, I do care about Max. I do kind of care about Dee
I'm not talking
Dee. I
about
just
Max
don't
and
compare.
Dee Dee.
Don't care as much about the others. Right, what's your score?
I really like Wednesdays. I thought Fridays was exciting. I think it was hyped too much. And I don't know why I do this to myself every time, where I go, oh, just remember that it doesn't always live up to your expectations. And every time I'm like, no, but this time will be different. I feel like I'm a victim of abuse from Coronation Street, who've been coercing me. Only kidding. I'm going to give this 3.
Huh?
Yeah.
3? 3? That wasn't a 3 week. 3 what?
Look, the actors were great. The writing was great. The direction was great. The volume was great. It didn't bother me at all. I didn't even notice when they said, oh, and here's the volume war. I was like, oh, okay, finally learned how to use the volume war, have you? Because it didn't stick out to me. Obviously, I was naive there, but maybe, I don't know. I liked the fact that they did it at the viaduct. I thought that was a really cool
I like
location.
that they had a cool location, a cool set piece
fun.
for it. Nice bit of location shoot.
There's just too many unanswered questions and things that really bother me, and I'm worried, and I don't. And again, this is my interpretation of it. It's not necessarily a reflection of what actually the show was, because you bring baggage to every episode you watch, and expectations and preconceptions, and perhaps in this case I ruined the experience for myself by overthinking it.
What are you scoring it out of, my dad?
3 grave robbing golems.
I thought you'd go for Battersby sandwiches, which is why I didn't pick that one.
You can have it.
I'm giving it 4 Battersby sandwiches then. Character of the week, I'm going to go for Max. I think that I like Max anyway. I think the fact that he was involved in the climax of this was a nice little twist. I love the stuff with the relationship stuff with Lauren, him sacrificing himself.
It's
the
a really
fact that he was there for the big
setup.
stunt.
It's a fascinating setup for whatever's going to happen with the Platts and Clayton and Shona and David.
It all makes sense.
It's like, although it feels underwhelming as a solution, it feels like perhaps one of the ones that gives the most opportunity for future plots.
Yeah. Are you good? Who's your character of the week?
Max.
Also Max. Well done, Max.
Well done, Paddy.
Double character of the week. I hope we've discussed this enough. It feels like we've been talking about it for plenty long enough. I'm sure there's stuff that we've missed that we've not talked about. Do feel free to write in and tell us your thoughts and opinions about it. I'm sure you will. We've actually got a few in our feedback section later on.
Almost every time there's been something really big and hyped, I think I've not liked it. Looking back on all the times when something big has happened, or we knew there's going to be a stunt week, or like when Imran died, when it was the end of Pat Phelan, and when Uncle Stephen's final week, I think I've always found it underwhelming. Because you hype it
up too much.
And I think it's because of the podcast, because we talk about things and overanalyze them. And so from the perspective of me giving this a 3, like I said before, I don't think it's necessarily a reflection of whether it was a 3 or whatever.
We did enjoy the Coronation Street, and that seems like the wrong take because everybody else hated it.
Yeah, but I don't think I was thinking it's going to be that great. But again, I've seen movies where I've gone, oh my God, I thought it was going to be rubbish and it was brilliant, you should go see it. And people have gone and see it and gone, that was absolute tripe. What are you thinking about?
Yeah, we have definitely had that. Anyway, look, should we move on? Are we done?
I'm literally going to be stuck in this limbo until I get released by...
It's only a few days until the next episode is on, and hopefully all your fears will be washed away down the river like Joel.
I need an exorcism.
Right, we're done.